I'm going to assume that means that everything is busted. Probably because right before I went live, Jack the Good Boy in the chat decided to say traces out a peanut butter pentagram on his monitor. I'm sorry, but magic of that power probably does not actually help me out here. But in an ideal world, everything is working now. It's probably not. Then again, technology hates me. So, all things considered, I hope that we are actually live and working. And Random Atheist says first, which is very incorrect. Shannon Q says that she is magic, which I cannot confirm nor deny. Yokai Theory says EpiPen. I might need an EpiPen. I'm allergic to stupid, and oh my gosh, we are going to be dealing with some of that today. So, I hope you guys have been having a wonderful time. Obviously, I am not quite as sick as I was before because I have my whole voice, and I don't sound like Solid Snake. So, I can actually use my voice now, and I can actually do a presentation, which feels good, which is why you guys got a Saturday video instead of a normal weekday video. I got to the point where I said, hey, I can make a video now. I'm getting you guys a video, even if it's on the weekend, which is not normally when I upload. So, today, instead of dealing with biblical gender roles, which would be the norm for Mondays, we are going to be dealing with creationism, mainly because Shannon Q, if she is in the audience, sent a video that I'm going to be responding to. It is not the one that I'm responding to today, but it got me on the itch for wanting to deal with creationism a little more. The video that she sent, you guys are going to have to wait to see. That's going to be tomorrow's video. But it is another video on creationism. But the title of today is, in fact, Why Creationism is Stupid. So I've got a little bit of a rant, and then we're going to be going into a video called Were Adam and Eve Real People? Spoiler alert, no, they were not. Shannon says it pissed me off. Well, good, it pissed me off too. I'm glad that this time it was you who sent me a video that pissed me off enough to where I wanted to make a response, instead of the other way around, which is what happened with Christian counseling. So, I made a video a while back that was entitled "I'm Tired of Stupid Fucking People," and the point of that video was for me to get into the types of people that I didn't want to deal with anymore because I felt like they were too stupid to warrant response. However, let me clarify. In the course of that video, I got into flat earthers, anti-vaxxers, and creationists, typically of the young earth variety, but you can lump some old earthers in here as well because some of the philosophy they use is just plain silly in many cases, like what happened earlier on Twitter today, where me and Epichrist got into it because I responded to a guy named Cameron. He was the one who hosted the Mike Winger and Matt Dillahunty debate, where he tried to bring up the Kalam, and I pointed out that there is nothing that says that our universe began to exist, because as far as we can tell, matter is infinite. And then me and Epichrist got into an argument, which we are normally apt to do because that's typically what happens. So, that was fun. So I'm very much on an anti-creationism kick right now. So your standard atheist YouTube content is probably going to be coming out of me for a little bit while I'm on this kick. So, a weird book is obsessed with foreskins. Yeah, that is the case. So, regardless of the whys and regardless of the history, I want to first clarify a few things on creationism and why I find it absurdly stupid. So creationism or intelligent design, these two things are essentially the same term. Anybody who says that they are not the same term, I would like you to please give me the definition that is different between the two, because as far as I can tell, we've even found the U.S. court systems that they were basically the same, one masquerading as the other. So, no, they're equally problematic, equally stupid, and equally a thing that I'm tired of dealing with. However, I do recognize that we do have, what was it, about 50%-ish of the United States is anti-evolution in some variety, and then 20% of the United States is very, very creationist specifically. As a result, I think that regardless of whether or not I think that these arguments are stupid and below merit of criticism, they still influence enough people that they need to be addressed. And Shannon says, I'm equally stupid. Yes, I am an idiot. Nathaniel Walter says, I hate that I don't get invited to these shows. So the only reason that you're not getting invited to this show, Nathaniel, is because this is a one-man show type of deal. Usually, Mondays sometimes involves a guest. Usually it is Raz and Aaron because they live with me. Sometimes it's Ocean. But 9 times out of 10, Mondays are going to be my solo stream, whereas my duo stream is on Thursdays with Ocean, when we can get both of us to be available at the exact same time. However, if you do have the ability, and you want to, and you have a Discord, then that is a method that you can use to join in, Nathaniel. So if there's anybody that I think would be able to help me with this particular style of video, you would probably be the one. So if you are on in the chat and you do have access to Discord, then let me know, and we can work something out. I'm going to look at the chat for just a second, see that we have Kitty in the chat saying hello. I do have Kitty's fan art, the one saying this is fine, in there. Normally, the rule is that we do not put fan art in the fan art section of the live stream unless it is fan art that was recently submitted. However, that particular fan art is so aesthetically pleasing that it's going to be there until something pushes it out of the way, and then I'm probably going to find another place that I can put it, and it's going to remain there for a little bit of time, because that's basically how I feel, is just me with a glass of tea with random tentacles around me, and I'm just like, I'm about to get completely screwed over, but this is fine. I can get on Discord just via the server. So, Nathaniel, if you check in the description box, of this video, you will actually find the server code, just like always. Every single time I've ever hosted a video, the description box will have the Discord server in it. So if you hop in there, I will keep an eye on the general chat and see if you're in there. And if I don't catch Nathaniel, then somebody is on the Discord and is on here who will be able to. So let me know when you get in there. You know, I'm obviously still a little sniffly, so if you guys hear a little bit of the... I'm sorry about that. But, creationism. Who are the biggest proponents of creationism that we deal with? We're typically told Kent Hovind, Ken Ham, Eric Hovind, Ray Comfort. These are your young earth creationists. This is almost like the hive mind that we deal with all the freaking time. However, there is the CMI Creation Station, Creation Ministries. They are or Creation Magazine, International Creation Ministries, however you want to say it. It is all of those and none of them at the same time. Hey, it's rocking the thing. Ian says, creationism isn't stupid. Please watch Matt Powell debunk evolution to see the truth. I've already seen that entire movie, Ian, and you were mentioned in my video talking about Anderson's little powwow he's having in Orlando. So if you'd kindly like to see yourself... actually, you know what? I say this... Matt Powell versus Raging Atheist, you already know my opinions on. There's a public video on Raging Atheist channel. However, Ian, if there is anybody that I would not mind talking about this topic to, Nathaniel is one of them, but the other one would be you. So if you would like an invitation, Ian, to go into my Discord server and we can have a chat and we can have it live here, I would love to. And don't make this like the last time where we said we were going to have a conversation and you brought Matt Powell in. I have no issue with Matt Powell coming and watching, too. I mean, I let him call into the show last time. That was perfectly fine. And that's not a thing that that's not a thing I have an issue with doing again or any amount of times, really. But if you, Ian, because I know that you have a personal investment in these things, would like to have that conversation, that option is open. The Discord is also open. I see that Nathaniel has entered in there. I'm going to be hopping in the live stream chat. I will be limiting the live stream chat to 2 people for now. Well, yeah, it's going to be 2 people for now. And that is going to be me and Nathaniel. Well, of course, my Discord would freeze. Because why would technology actually work for me when I need it to? Brian Stevens says, I'd love it if Ian appeared to speak to Cyrus. I've yet to see a creationist give evidence for creationism. They usually go on and on about disliking evolution. Yeah, if you debunked evolution today, it would not validate creationism. That's just this weird idea that evolution and religion are juxtaposed to one another, therefore disproving one proves the other. It's patently incorrect. So the fact that it's a thing that happens all the time is just weird to me. But I am hopping into the stream chat. If anybody hops into there, they will immediately be moved into the punishment room. So please do not do that. The only person who's allowed into the stream chat right now is Nathaniel, or if I see Ian pop up in here, which I'm assuming Big Fun Freak 55 is not Ian. If it is, then that's unexpected. But in an ideal world, we should have Nathaniel. Wrong. You hopped into the wrong channel, Nathaniel. You hopped into the wrong one. You hopped into the general channel. I have dragged you into the stream channel. We're safe here. But your microphone is also muted. You may want to unmute your microphone so that people can hear you. Damien says, I am FunFreak55. Okay, awesome. Excellent. Yeah, no, I figured that it was not Ian. I see no reason why it would be Ian. Though, I did have my hopes. In the off chance that it was Ian, that would have been neat. And that would have led to some productive conversations. But, still, I need to wait another 2 minutes and 42 seconds to chat. Oh, okay, yeah, no, we've got that thing. Do we have a thing? No, we shouldn't. Try speaking. Just try speaking into the mic. It should work. Maybe. Possibly. It shows you as unmuted. We also have a... Oh, yes! You are speaking. We also have a 5...
Yeah, I see that I'm unmuted, and I don't know if it works.
It works perfectly. I can hear me through you, and I can hear you. Although you might not be able to hear me through Discord. You need to make sure that your output device in Discord is correct. And whilst you are figuring that out, we do have a $5 super chat from Atheist T-Girl. You did great at the Faithless Forum. Speaking of that, Atheist T-Girl, thank you very much for that. And also, I wanted to let it be known that the fan art that your son gave me at the Faithless Forum did in fact survive the trip. So it is here. I'm not sure where I'm going to put it quite yet. For now, it is within easy reach for me to grab whenever I'm on stream. I was waiting for you to be on one of my streams for me to throw this up to let you know that it did, in fact, make the trip. And I still very much appreciate it. Thank you. So, that is a thing that is there. And it is within easy reach of me whenever I need it. It's literally in the exact same place as my hammer. So, that said... Nathaniel, have you gotten your situation figured out yet?
I think so. You should be able to hear me, right?
I can hear you perfectly fine, and you can hear me, correct?
That is correct. I think I've about figured out this whole streaming thing. Next thing you know, we're going to have an actual... Susan and I will have an actual, like, really great podcast, and we don't worry about whether or not there's technical issues.
You know what's funny? I've been doing this for a while now, and I still have technical issues every time. So you say that.
I'm very excited.
You say that. Maybe it could also be that I'm a flaming idiot. Like that could be it. That could be the problem.
Well, then you and I are just this. We already know we're the same anyway, so never mind. Welcome to acceptance of such flaming idiocy. I'm happy to have you in the same room.
Excellent. So for those who are not aware, this is Nathaniel Walters. He's a good friend of mine. I've been on his Periscope a few times, and he has been on my stream. When I was when I was doing the debunking of Matt Powell's movie, he hopped in there. So, Nathaniel, would you like to introduce yourself and tell them what you do?
I hesitate to call that a movie, by the way.
Flaming piece of garbage works.
Yes, I have many other... I don't know... Everything that's an antonym of a movie. I need to find the thesaurus so I can find all of the antonyms. But... that in the background.
That was Raziel in the background. She was being weird.
Talking about that movie and saying that kind of a thing, that's totally okay, I think. But yes, I am Nathaniel, Atheist Husker. I've actually had to limit my my stuff for Twitter and stuff. I had to take my name off of it and everything because of quote unquote professional stuff. People can't see my atheism on the internet apparently. But we do. I'm with my partner Susan. We have a twice a week podcast, Divine Disbelief. We talk about secular news. We actually had Neil the 604 Atheist on last night.
Neil's a good guy.
Really great. Go and check his channel out. He actually had Aaron on this past week. In my free time, if you want to call it that, I do a lot of things that Cirrus does just without the cool channel. Susan and I infiltrate Young Earth Creationist conferences, and we go to a bigoted church down here in downtown Dallas, and down here with Robert Jeffress, and we listen to their Young Earth Creationist nonsense, and then we create. And we do what we can to stay on the forefront of that kind of a thing here, because it's so big in DFW, which is where we live here in North Texas. And we have the Institute for Creation Research is right down the street. I could probably walk there from the house here. And so we stay on top of them, and I actually have a lot of their publications that I've gotten for free. And I could probably, I think I have more Earth Creationist and apologetics books than I do like science books. And as you know, I study paleoanthropology and the history of the world. Like almost, I could do it as a living, and I have more creationist books than I do science books. So
that's typically a good way to work about it, though, because if you're going to come at it from wanting to argue against the other side, then if you haven't studied that side's literature, then you come across this really awkward thing where when somebody gives you a message and you don't know how to respond to it, it's usually because you haven't heard it before. But if you've read through much of the literature, you don't really encounter that problem so much.
That's correct. I can tell you that, and this is something that I talked to Paul Apologia about last weekend when you guys were here in Dallas, and we started talking. We said that we can actually predict now, because we see the science that comes through. We see like the publications that come through in the scientific journals and stuff like that, like in the New York Post, which is not science, as you have mentioned more than once. And we're able to make predictions about what the folks at ICR and AIG and Discovery Institute what they're going to say in advance of them actually releasing anything. So that's a testament to, first off, New York Post stop writing things about science because you're awful, but also that of anything new, and they don't actually have any science. Here's Cirrus typing in the background is my favorite thing.
Oh, I'm definitely, like, whilst you're giving your part of the presentation, it's allowing me to argue with somebody in my Discord server, which is excellent, actually.
Well, by the way, I didn't get to say thank you so much for having me on again. I know that we were talking the other day, and you were talking about like xenomorphs and stuff, and I'm like, I don't know what we're talking about. So,
which reminds me, we need to have a conversation. Not today, not now, but about time travel.
That was something that happened the other day. For those of you that don't know, by the way, and you are correct. I mean, we're not going to discuss it. Thank you for making sure that we both know that. But today is the Captain America like cleared it with the Russo folks or whatever that we can now talk about the Avengers without saying like spoiler or whatever. So thanks for that, Captain America.
True, but we're not doing that on this stream.
Station that comes with time travel. I look forward to it. I'll just let you know that.
Okay, excellent. So the next thing is, I don't think there is a. I said that there's not a way for me to do this. There is a way for me to do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you an individual call on. No, I'm not, because that's not going to work the way that I want. Actually, what's funny is in Discord, the argument that's happening, demonstrate that Jesus Christ exists. So
it doesn't matter if Jesus existed or not. It matters whether or not he rose from the dead and did supernatural bullshit.
Well, see, there's a bit of a problem here. Exists and existed are two very different terms. I can agree that Jesus Christ existed as a historical figure. I can agree that a Jesus Christ existed that would comport very heavily to the biblical narrative. However, the mere fact that a man who was named Yeshua existed in the correct time, in the correct place, The mere fact that that person existed does not mean that they do still exist. There's this thing that humans do called dying. It's pretty common. Most everybody has to do it. If you find a way to avoid it, please let me know, because that would be real neat, I'll have you know. But the conversation in here has gone... Let me scroll up to the beginning. The conversation has been, unfortunately, you will have to submit to Christ. My response is, that is unfortunate. Why would we need to do that? He goes, well, it's unfortunate for you. Well, I said, actually, it's unfortunate for Christ. Insofar as non-existence can have agency, he supposes I must comport. He goes, well, I guess you don't have to submit. That is, if you want to get annihilated. Which sounds eerily close to a threat, but that's fine, because I've been told many worse things on the internet. Non-existence.
Is that annihilation? Well, is that annihilation theory then versus going to hell, or is that person just saying you're going to go to hell forever?
Based on the way it was worded, it could be anything. It's very, very vague. But then it goes, non-existence. I tip my fedora to you, which is fine. One day I'm going to get a fedora just so I can just unironically tip it, even though I find them cringy as hell.
I will never have one outside of the one that Jamie. You saw
the rainbow
me
one.
And Jamie wearing last weekend. Yes. Besides that one, I'll never own one.
But I said, can one without the ability to annihilate do so? Because as far as I'm concerned, if something does not exist, it does not have the ability to annihilate. And he goes, well, the thing is, though, he does. And I go, well, you must first demonstrate that he, or rather it, exists. Is it not self-evident? Self-evidency is the look at the trees argument for those who are not well informed on that. And I said, well, once you've done that, you must then demonstrate it has agency. And then Drake in the chat just goes, you need to take this to civilized discussion. Which is true. If I'm following the rules of my own server, yes, there's a debate channel that I should have taken this to. So good call. That is something I should have done. Then he goes, demonstrate that Jesus Christ exists. How can you deny that? Even the Jews believed he existed. But that is an equivocation on existence, because... whether or not Jesus Christ existed says nothing about his divinity. It says nothing about whether he exists now. So I said exists, not existed. And I'm scrolling down to figure out where the rest of this conversation has gone. Because I have no idea where it's gone. Oh, no. One biologist is part of the conversation. It has spiraled into hell. Have fun. Wombologists is the person who makes most of the lewd fan art of my character. So if they are part of the conversation, it has spiraled into a hell of which it will not return. So I ought not be part of that conversation anymore.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave that one alone as well. As you know, and do what I can. I think with you and I to stick to talking about creationism, and I will do that. But and at the thing that I mentioned, of this, where it was, and this is a debate that I had on non-sec. I do not care whether or not Jesus existed. That's the least of my concerns, because as far as I can tell, people have lived and people have died. It's the other parts that matter. And oh yeah, as of yet, I have no evidence to accept this supernatural stuff. Provide some of that, and then we'll get to it, I guess. Then we'll start to. Well, at that point, it no longer becomes natural. This is the stuff that I've been talking to people about, where it's like it's no longer supernatural if we have the evidence and we can look at it. It's just at this point natural.
It's supernatural until you like once you've demonstrated that it's a thing, then it's not supernatural anymore, because if it exists, it is not supernatural. Existence now makes it comport to the natural world, unless your version of natural includes only things that are within this universe and therefore within this reality. If that's the case, then yeah, there are some versions of a god that are outside of that, like a deistic god that could exist and then still be supernatural. Sure, that's fine, but that's getting into like hyper semantics at that point.
Yeah, don't give them the opportunity to do that, because they will. They'll go learn some other portion of philosophy so that they can try to. They can I
have no problem with that. They can learn all of it. Like they can learn every single bit of it, and all that means is that I'll refine mine more to the point where they'll get incredibly frustrated, and that's fine.
Yeah, but then anyway, because it's dumb. But then will they still be frustrated if they become atheists? Because then they'll have to have a new handle besides frustrated atheist.
Oh my gosh. Because
Don't tell
Russ
him I said that.
Russ has already taken that. Russ is a good guy, though. If he's in the chat, he's a good guy.
Yeah.
We do have 142 watching right now, which is a record for me. Actually, that's a decent chunk, more so than I'm used to getting.
Me.
Yes,
because you put creationism in the title.
Could be the case.
It's like whenever I put anything with Donald Trump, First Amendment, or guns on Periscope, it's guaranteed to get more views than normal. So it's just you did good with the clickbait title this time.
Fair enough. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to send you a private message on Discord. In fact, actually, I don't even have to do that. If you look in voice chat text, there's going to be a link to a video, which is the video that I'm going to be responding to here. So what we'll do is whenever I say I'm going to play the video, we'll play until I say pause. And we'll just have to do it together. Because
Synchronize your watches.
Yes, we're basically going to be synchronizing watches. Normally, like when we did the Matt Powell... my throat hurts because it's closing as I'm trying to say movie. As we did the Matt Powell piece of flaming garbage he called a movie. There we go. There it is. When we did that, we were able to do it over Zoom, where I was able to just play it and broadcast it to you guys, which made it really easy and really simple. But because we're doing this kind of in post, where we're doing this after I've already gone live, we have to kind of play by some different rules. Neil says, I'm a deist. Well, that's what describes my belief best. Also view on older creationism. So deism I don't really have much of an issue with because that's something that doesn't really have a lot of entailment. A deistic god by its nature cannot create rules that you can then use to try to impose on society. So if you're a deist, that does nothing. It's not something I care about. View on older creationism. I don't so much care about old Earth creationism usually because typically old Earth creationism is not very anti-science. However, it can be, and when it is, I'm against it. There are, and there's also points where, for instance, Hugh Ross is a well-known old Earth creationist, and there are some times where I'm punching alongside Hugh Ross, where I think that, no, you're right, go after Ken Ham, go after these people, make an example of them, show them what the science says, beat them down with it. But then when you get into some of the things like denial of the theory of evolution, which happens with some old Earth creationists, which is really paradoxical, at that point, I start to hold issue. Or when you get to old Earth creationism and human exceptionalism. I think I touched on at the Faithless Forum. I think that's one of the more dangerous ideas that we have as a society because of the entailments of human exceptionalism. If you view yourself as exceptional by merit of being human, it does nothing of benefit to the human race. In fact, actually, where we are right now, it's causing a lot of damage. There may have been some utility to human exceptionalism in the past, but now that we've established ourselves, I don't think that utility's there. Just as I think that there was a lot of utility to having theocratic governments when the idea of other better forms of government didn't exist at that time. But now that we have better, stronger, more well-structured forms of government that especially have better moral laws, the idea of a theocratic government, whilst useful in times past, is quite vestigial at this point.
I agree with that. And then we also, the way that people look at themselves when it comes to human exceptionalism as well, it really it gets to the idea that even if like things like Ken Ham says, to where I don't care about the planet because God's not going to let us kill it. He doesn't say that specifically, but that type of a thing where it becomes like, well, we're no matter what we do, we're bigger and better. This place was made for us anyways, and so we're just gonna, we're gonna like do what Genesis says, right, in 1 and 2 and stuff like that, where it's like everything's gonna be beneath us and everything, and that's Stephen Meyer and Eric Metaxas up the Discovery Institute, and those are a couple of guys that I've had some interactions with, and then I went down into Palestine, Texas, MLK Day this past year. And I watched one of their movies, and it has to do with eugenics.
Oh boy!
And I'd like to go. It is actually not a bad little film. I'm not giving you props, Discovery Institute. Don't take my shit out of context. But it actually does show how we as humans, we actually put other humans in cages and tried to say, hey, this person is most related to an ape. And that kind of a thing. And as like up at literally at like the New York Zoo and stuff like that. And these are things that we actually have done. But then they try and link, and this is something, this comes from directly from Discovery Institute, where they try and link evolutionary theory with eugenics, which is not the same thing, and they try and push it back to Darwin, and that's where I actually ask them some very specific questions, and then of course I also ask them, if you're completely against eugenics, and eugenics, which you should be, by the way, why didn't you bring up the founder of Planned Parenthood, who was pushing this stuff to the KKK? Oh, right. You know, and because that's a real thing, and it becomes dangerous when you get people like Metaxas and Stephen Meyer, and then a guy down at UH down in Houston, I forget his name, he's a chemist, who Susan does not like. To where most of these folks, you know, they're more like they're easy to talk to, and they're nice people to as much as a person can say that. This chemist down from the University of Houston, he's just like this arrogant guy, and he's like, yeah, other scientists don't even know what I'm talking about type stuff. And I'm like, I guarantee you scientists do. But they get into this.
It's the same thing that happens. I have a friend who gets into this whole like idea that science is dogma. At which point I go, there may be dogma within the scientific communication field, but typically your scientific communication field, they're not the ones who are generally writing the papers. They are the ones who are generally taking that data and communicating it to lay audiences. There may be dogma in how they communicate that. That can be true. That does not mean there's dogma in how those papers are being dealt with, though. Because the scientific method doesn't really allow for that.
And by the way, it's not John Pendleton or whatever his name is. No, he's an actual chemist. I don't remember his name.
But Pendleton is a wonderful car mechanic chemist. Car mechanic chemist, paleontologist, semi-scientist, right? His list of
I'm gonna let Logic have that one.
His list of faked credentials is just it's astounding.
I am going to let Logic on that. And by the way, yes, I am talking about the start of the at the World's Fair up in New York City. Then also we went into St. Louis and stuff as well, where it was real eugenics, and they said that the Catholic Church was the one that like really kind of pushed this stuff off, and they tried to make it seem as though religion was the one that saved us from eugenics, when we know that's not the case. And I even asked them about that, and I said, you'll hear scientists today, because I was there, and it was really funny because everybody that asked the question before me, for some reason, because they were like, this isn't about religion, and I was like, we're in a church. Every person that spoke before me was a pastor of some sort, and so I stood up and I said, hi, my name is Nathaniel, and I'm not a pastor, but I have a question anyway. And I actually had a question. I said, scientist that I know says that eugenics is the opposite of evolutionary theory. Include that into your film, saying, because this comes from the same people who, when you look at this stuff, this is more polished than this old Earth creationist stuff is more polished than the Ken Ham stuff, polished than the stuff you get from any of the Hovins and stuff like that. And that makes it so much more, in my opinion, so much more dangerous because of the way that it's presented. It's like, oh, the Earth could be really old. Now that I've created this, where I give science a little bit of stuff, let me tear down this other side of science because now I have this, you respect me for what I'm saying in this part of science type deal. And I find that to be a little bit more dangerous because
it's a bit of a bait and switch at that point, because with the Hovins and with Ray Comfort and with Ken Ham, what you get is something that's maybe like one step left of 9/11 truthism or conspiracy theory. It's one step left of that, and usually, because if something is just one step left of conspiracy theory, it's very easy to dismiss it, because at that point you go, well, so for you to take this claim, you literally have to have thousands of people working in perfect corroboration in order to have your particular worldview function. And I'm sorry, if my worldview was sitting on a thin hair like that, I might go insane. But obviously you've managed it, except you're a conspiracy theorist, so actually maybe the insanity's not too far off from the truth. But when somebody begins, this is something that happens a lot with Jordan Peterson, when you begin with a reasonable statement, and that reasonable statement is something it's not only intuitive and reasonable, in many times it might actually be true, you then go down this hole where you're nodding your head and you're going, yes, I agree with that. Your guard is no longer up, and they can then bring in something and go, but the banana, or some other stupid Ray Comfortian argument that you weren't necessarily expecting. And that's why it does help to be skeptical. Not skeptical to the point of hyper-skepticism. The argument from the ass does still apply. Please take that into consideration. The donkey did starve in that argument. So don't fall into the hyper-skepticism. But definitely don't just take somebody's word for something because they comport themselves as if they're an authority. I see that Michael in chat says, what... the argument from the ass is basically that there's a donkey that has two types of food near it, and it can't choose between the two types of food because they're equal in every way, so the donkey starves because it's a hyper-skeptic. It's skeptical over which type of food it should choose. It's the argument against hyper-skepticism. The donkey in this is a hyper-skeptic, therefore it dies because it can't take a position. Take a fucking position. Use your skepticism to get you to a position. It takes a few extra steps, but it's doable.
It does, and that's part of the reason where... and it's part of the reason that I really respect, folks like Paul and Rhino, and then you, and then whatever we do. Whenever Susan and I, we have we do our news and stuff like that. We link to everything. If we, yesterday evening, we were talking about Robertson about something, and I've never said that before. And so we have on the channel, we have links to this where you can actually go and see the reason that we agree with Pat Robertson about this. And I think it's very important whenever you hear myself or Cirrus or anybody else talking, look into listen to what like Friendly Atheist, right? I have an incredible amount of respect for Hamet. And one of the big reasons for that is because if you go and read the articles that he gives the nice little little blurbs and stuff, and he adds his own opinion to it, but the link to the source is there. And so I think that's always follow those to the beginning of them, because everything else is just an opinion, something else that I may have added on to it. So call him the Kirk Cameron of atheism.
The Kirk Cameron of atheism. That's a statement.
That I'm gonna tell him.
Now Hemet's I haven't. So Hemet is one of the public atheists who I want to have a conversation with, but I have not yet had a chance to. I've had a brief interaction with Seth Andrews. I've had a few conversations with Matt Dillahunty. I've had a few conversations with Aaron, and he's been on my show a few times. The ones who I've had the most correspondence with are like you, Aaron, and a few others. But I haven't yet gotten a chance to talk with Hemet, and I'd like to at some point, because one, he just seems like a really cool guy.
I've never actually had the opportunity to talk to him either. He's very much be measured in his words, and I don't very often hear him become incredibly like me. Whenever I'm on, you know this, I can have a certain level of emotion, to call it that, and where Hement is very measured, and to where I can get like I can't imagine. I'm very excited about to see this video, by the way. I cannot imagine how I am going to respond, because I haven't watched this yet, to some of the things these people are going to say, and how on there's a level of, it's not just, Hement is very passionate, but the way that he says it, I'm not anywhere close to the friendly atheist. You know, I think that he and I can probably both give like the same message, and he's much more friendly than I am, just by the way that he talks.
See, for me, if we were all handed the same script, for me, it really would depend on the day, because I've noticed there are some days where I can make a video, and no matter how much like ignorant, arrogant, damaging stuff is in the video I'm dealing with, I can be just friendly and calmly parse through it and go, that's a fallacious argument, maybe you ought not say that. That one actually discriminates against a minority group. That one doesn't really work well for your cause. Just kind of go through that. And then there are some days where I look at a video that might not be quite as bad, and just, I click the video, I'm immediately angry, and you can usually tell which days that's the case.
Yes. Yep.
The days where I'm like, all right, why don't you go ahead and just crawl so far up your ass you're tonguing your own tonsils, please.
Yep. And that's I find that whenever I am talking to somebody about science, who's blatantly misrepresenting either something I have said or something I have written, is saying something to like children, am much more adamant versus, and I have regular conversations, and you've been a part of them sometimes, with people to where theology, and we're just having this conversation, and somebody comes in and says something like Jesus is stupid, or something that's like just this claim, like on the side of the theist. I'm like, dude, stop being a dick. So it's kind of odd. Like, I can see my own like personality shift sometimes, and I'm like, maybe I just need to get more sleep or drink more water sometimes. I don't know which one of these is correct.
Yeah, I hate that the measured approach seems to come as a day-by-day thing. It feels like it shouldn't, but I think part of that, for me at least, comes from being cooped up in the house all the time. So like some days I'm just like, I woke up, it's a good morning. Ken Ham doesn't make me want to literally end part of humanity. And then there's some days where I wake up and I'm just like, Ken Ham is the reason humanity was a mistake.
there are parts of it, right? And I don't get into like the ad hominem thing where because you've seen the ones with like the, you know, where they made him and he actually looks like an ape or whatever type deal.
Yes, where I'm like the guy who is just like, you know, for somebody who denies that he shares most of his genes with an ape, you sure do look awfully close to one.
Yeah, I'm like I'm gonna stay away from that one, especially somebody who like studies that side of science, call it religiously, if you will. I'm gonna answer this question. Anderson was not. He was banned from that part, the 26 countries in Europe that make up Chagrin or something. I'm going to pronounce that wrong. Sorry, Europe. I don't think it's the entire EU. 31 countries altogether, but 26 in Europe. He's not banned from apparently yet. We talked about Steven Anderson again last night. 2 episodes in a row we've talked about Steven Anderson. Sir, you got to come on and save us from Steven.
It's unfortunately, Steven has been part of 2 of my episodes recently as well. There was the episode that he did a video about Easter worshipers, that whole meme, and I just kind of had to get into that and just go, look, this is semantic at best and stupid at worst, and given that it's Anderson, I think we can assume the latter. And then this last one, when he did his whole Make America Straight Again or like deal that he's trying to do at the site of the Orlando shooting, mind you, not on the site, but they're doing it in Orlando specifically and very deliberately, because it is the site of a shooting of a gay bar. So, yeah, no, he's been a subject in my videos a little more often lately because of that. Yeah, that's caused. It's caused me some issues. So unfortunately, I cannot save you from Anderson, as he has been a recent subject on my channel again, because I received a warning a while back about Anderson, and it wasn't the usual, like, Steven Anderson's a horrible person, you should be careful about him. That's kind of comes with the territory of looking at his dumb face. No, I received a warning a year ago when I did a video titled The Art of the Straw, or Steven Anderson, The Art of the Straw Man, or something like that. No, it was Atheist Pastors and the Art of the Straw Man, where Steven Anderson was basically talking about the Clergy Project and saying how he hates any pastor that is part of the Clergy Project, but he would not say Clergy Project because he's Anderson, of course, and if he actually mentioned what it is, then people who need that type of thing might have actually, gone and done some research on it. He basically talked about it without saying as many words. But throughout the course of his rant, the details of that aren't necessarily terribly important, but I received a lot of comments going, don't go down the Steven Anderson rabbit hole, you will never get out. And here I am a year after making that video going, you were right! You were right! Also, speaking of, there's two more things I need to get into real quick. One, I noticed that Ian Fisher has disappeared from the chat. Except when I do my it seems that Ian is still listening. Ian has just stopped typing. I know that you are listening, Ian. The offer for conversation is still up.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that you're not Zemite in Discord, though it would not surprise me if you were. And the next thing that I need to say, just had to go ahead and throw that one out there, is that we did receive a fan art. Now, this is a fan art that I technically received earlier over Facebook, but it was submitted during the course of the stream, and as is the rule, when fan art is submitted on the stream, it does have to be thrown into the video as long as it is safe for work. And this one is, as long as you don't think about it too hard. So we have, from Orla Serif, they had a friend, or they commissioned a friend, it seems, to do some artwork of female me holding a body pillow that is also me. Yeah, no, I have long ago stopped wondering, and I've since just accepted that my fan base is weird, and that's fine because I am as well. So
you have a fan base. I'm actually kind of jealous. That's cute.
I'm you say you're jealous, but I can tell you from experience that in some ways it's utterly terrifying. It depends on what your fan base does. Mine happens to draw me with tits.
I mean, I don't have a quippy. Fine, I don't have a quippy response to something, Cyrus. How dare you? I did. By the way, can I give a shout out on your show? Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Real fast. Of my life, and the reason that I do everything to further our lives, not just the lives of our corgis. But Susan is in the chat, and I noticed that she had said something that me not having a
quippy comeback is rare. I see that.
I just see my partners in the chat, and I am in love with you, Susan, and I look forward to seeing you in a couple of hours. So
Nathaniel's getting flirty in the chat.
I am just in love with the person who's in the chat. Leave me alone.
So, with that said, I did receive a request in the chat to go ahead and start playing the video. So, are you ready to go ahead and hit the play button and suffer?
Okay, hold on.
Because there's no guarantee we're going to get into the entirety of it, because there is 28 minutes of it, and that's a bit much. But we can at least. I haven't seen the video, so I don't know what all's in it. But the video is titled "Were Adam and Eve Real People?"
Can we just say no and be done?
I've said that before. And then when I did that, I ended up making an entire video about people who juice celery to cure cancer. So, I wish I was lying. This is the thing that happened.
Jeez. Yes, I'm hold on. Let me done something on Fox News, so on a different link. So I want to make sure that it doesn't autoplay. News from Fox News. Leave me alone, people.
News from Fox News? Is that a tautology? I think that's a tautology.
You'd be surprised how often they talk about Islam in the religion section without it being murder all the Muslims. Actually, news about Islam.
Blue Collar Heathen in the chat just goes, just from the title, I'm going to be right back. I need naproxen.
I don't think... I was like, I wonder if I can ask Cyrus to hold on a second. I'm going to go to the store and get some alcohol.
No,
right.
you get to suffer through this the same way I am, and that's with sweet tea.
Oh. Well, I already drank my Mountain Dew, so yeah, I'm ready.
Oh boy. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and press play, and I'm gonna. Right. When I say pause or when I audibly cringe, then pause the video.
God, okay. All right. Well.
And go.
Have been influenced by evolution to the point where they're questioning the Genesis account of creation.
Were Adam and Eve real people?
Thinkers.
This week on Creation Magazine Live.
Well, they have like a Marvel entrance logo.
Yeah, their production values are like not bad.
Oh, it's CMI. I'm gonna tell Cinema Sins about this. It's like 30 seconds long.
Yeah, their production values are high, but they don't know how to have a snappy intro.
Welcome to Creation Magazine Live. My name's Richard Fangrad.
And I'm Matt Body.
This week on Creation Magazine Live, our topic is, were Adam and Eve real people? There are people who self-label as Christians who would answer yes, and an influential number of others who say no. Now, today we're going to provide some clarity on that issue so that you can make an informed decision, or at least learn more about the fact that, yes, Adam and Eve existed.
Wait.
Yes, of course,
wait,
Adam
hold
and Eve
on.
existed.
I'm going to have to pause that for a second.
Oh.
So instead of presenting their facts, which I'm guessing are going to be like 2 steps below Gary Habermas levels of historicism, maybe even a few steps lower than that. But
oh, Habermas.
I made a tweet earlier that said that I think Gary Habermas is just a dog whistle for uneducated apologists.
It's bad,
and I'm kind of gonna stick to that.
That's fair, because that was exactly what I did with whenever I was on Non-Sec and I debated, and he gave his entire entrance, and I said, and I think Kyle said, Nathaniel, do you just want to around and make sure that you know what he was talking about? And I said, oh yeah, that's the Habermas, Lacona, William Lane Craig minimal facts approach, right? That's it, right? And I said, it's like, that's it, right? And he went, I was like, okay, so there's nothing to it. I didn't say that out loud, but I was like, yeah, so then you did nothing because there's nothing to that. So,
and as for is there an issue with Gary Habermas? There's not an issue, because History Now in the chat is asking. There's not an issue with Gary Habermas as a person, just like there's not an issue with William Lane Craig as a person. However, there's an approach they use. Habermas's approach, classically, is the minimal facts approach, which is an argument from history. That is ahistorical. So what we get with the minimal facts argument, which is usually used for the resurrection, the minimal facts approach is something that historians don't use. And if the historians aren't using it, then I don't care. But if it's okay for us to use an ahistorical approach to history, then I guess for the purposes of this conversation, I'm now a mythicist because that position is officially valid.
Correct.
Because we're accepting ahistorical approaches. If we're accepting ahistorical approaches, then I'm going to go ahead and be a mythicist for the purposes of the conversation, because why the hell not? But if we can't accept the ahistorical approach, then the mythical facts argument doesn't work here either. So you can't have the cake and eat it too. You either have that argument working, and then the Bayesian argument for mythicism working at the same time, or neither of them work. Pick one or the other. Can't have both.
I can I, before we decide to move into like this movie, can I say that, by the way, I would rather talk for hours with Mike Lacona than William Lane Craig? Can I just, if I had to be given a choice?
Fair.
He's a better person. Okay. So
we do have a $10 super chat from Meredith Naveen. I'm hoping that I'm pronouncing that correctly, but I do not see any attached message. So if you do a super chat, you do have the ability to attach a message, and if it is a $10 super chat or higher, then at that point you also get a robot voice saying it on top of my voice saying it. So if you are sending a super chat, please do a message as well if you want to. Like, if you don't want to, obviously you don't have to. But if you do want to send a super chat, then you do get a chance for me to read that or answer a question in it or however it is, whatever you want to do. So, and his HistoryNet said Bayesian probability was also used to prove the resurrection. Yeah, that's the issue with Bayesian probability for historical arguments. It doesn't work for them terribly well. So that said.
With this video, it sounds like they're going to talk about opinion, and
the only thing I checked for was whether or not they quote mined, and I found a few of their telltale quote mine pictures, and that's why I figured I'd go ahead and use it.
Nice.
I literally just scrolled through the video and found some of their quote mine stuff, and I was like, "Yeah, this video will do." I have no idea what it said, but it's got quote mining in it. That'll work.
Then, because so far I am everything, especially the fact that they used their entrance music, and then that was also their music that they used whenever they panned down.
They used it again. Yes.
Production value less now.
No,
Thank you so much.
Like, there's a rule. So you have the lead-in cut, which can use a music that has a beginning, but if your lead-in cut was your opening cinematic, then maybe the best thing to do would be to have the music slowly fade out in time with the entrance of your actual presentation and the exit of your intro. By the way, this is the thing that I do in my videos, if you guys haven't fucking noticed. So,
we don't have any music yet.
Luckily, really early on in the life of my channel, I found
quote
a guy...
mining, because screw actual evidence to produce for an apologist argument.
Diesel Jester for $10 says, quote mining, because screw actual evidence to produce for an apologist argument. No, there's an honest type of apologetics, and then there's an incredibly dishonest one. There's a disproportion of dishonest apologetics, and quote mining is on the dishonest scale to the nth degree. So... I was saying something, and it has since gone into the void. The vacuum has taken my speech.
It's okay. We can talk about, because it was definitely about how you actually got somebody.
The music thing.
Yeah, we can always get into that. We had you and I have a conversation, because I am about these. I like where you paused the video and same place I did, I think.
Where it looks like they're ghosting.
Yes.
It looks like they're fading in and out of existence.
Are their souls just, like, gone for this video completely? Like, we're gonna lie anyways, so just sell our souls to Ken Ham regardless.
So actually, so what it looks like, I could be wrong, but based on the silhouettes, it looks like there's a male and a female silhouette, and they're proportioned very close to the speakers. So does this mean that we have we have two male presenting speakers? However, one of them might be trans but won't let us know because he's part of Creation Ministries and they would disown him instantaneously.
Oh, maybe.
Like,
hey, guy.
I know that that's not the intent, but because of where it's cut, that's just... I feel like that would be the case. I feel like that would be the case.
I think Atheist T-Girl said, looks like a Jedi robe.
Looks like a Jedi robe. Just...
Go with that. But I look forward to their quote mines, because And I look forward to finding out if they say that Adam and Eve are real people or not. Because I can't spoil this. I've never watched this video before. I don't know where the hell you found it.
I haven't either. I have no idea where it's going to go. I actually decided that this was the video I was going to be responding to 30 minutes before going live. Because
Sounds like something I would do. Don't make my mistakes, Cirrus.
But is it a mistake, though? Is it really?
Well, it depends on how much. Like if you lose subscribers, it's not going to be my fault. All right.
Okay, look, the only way I would lose subscribers here is if the person on the right there actually did come out as a woman, and my joke that I made, because the creation ministry is incredibly anti-trans, what would be really awkward is if that actually turned out to be true, and then they immediately got ostracized for that. That would almost be prophetic, and it would be really sad because I don't like somebody losing their job, especially not to an organization that's as bigoted as Creation Ministries. They're very, very anti-trans, very anti-LGBTQ, very anti anything good and decent, really. Just no,
Right.
Just absolutely no. But I will go ahead and click. Tata Philosophy says, who is live with Cirrus? Currently, I am live with Nathaniel Walters. I'm going to go ahead and click the play button here in a second. Neil Stone says, can you link the channel of the guy that we're talking to? I will, as soon as we are done, because originally the plan was not having Nathaniel on, but that just ended up happening.
Just happened to be available.
Yep.
And I'm always available for Cirrus, so...
Oh, that's...
Yes. Yeah,
Careful.
make that as sexual as you want.
There's a rule on this channel, and you may want to be very, very careful of it. There's a chance that you could have spoken something into existence. The last time this happened with me and Ocean, a fan art was submitted of him proposing to me with 200 lopped off foreskins out of the biblical narrative. So, just so you know, it's a thing that happens, so just be warned.
I'm not going to get the foreskins? That's where I would want to go. Okay, fine. Then if somebody is going to make fan art of me, by the way, I will commission that shit for you. I will pay you for it.
Oh, dear.
Only if you make it from Numbers 5. Is it. Go do your research on Numbers 5. Do that fan art. I'll pay you for that shit.
I wonder if this can be... Hold on. Oh, that was not supposed to happen. That was weird.
What'd you do?
I clicked on one of the fan arts in my Discord server, and it went into the actual video tab. So we got a flash of that fan art in the video playing section instead of the video itself. So that was awkward. Silas Fox says, I am now drawing Cirrus and Nathaniel spooning. Well,
that is not Numbers 5.
That is very not Numbers 5.
Oh, and I'm not gonna. And I thank you for not spoiling that, because now everybody needs to go read Numbers 5, not just the Christians.
Susan in the chat says, "Please send me all the fan art of Nathaniel." Okay, thanks.
That and whatever you want to make for like her and Kyle as well. So she and Kyle have something going on, and so I don't know why you and I can't. So I don't see, that's not a problem for me.
Yeah, fair enough. We do have another $1 super chat. That is from Rebecca Alfred Rickman. Thank you very much. This one also does not have text context. I think that everyone that comes from the Rickmans will not have context. Tata Philosophy says, abortion! It's about abortion!
God damn it.
Yeah, no, the numbers thing he's talking about was the I believe that's where they took a little bit of the sand from the bottom of the temple, put it in a pot, and made a potion. And they said, okay, if you cheated on your husband, this will make you miscarry.
Yeah. So one of us is the husband.
Guys, I'm gonna poop out a baby.
Well, it's gonna be. I mean, the clot is gonna. Something's gonna happen to the clot.
Oh no, we can't call it a clot. The Muslims got that wrong. Islam got that very wrong. The semen is not made in the spine.
Yeah.
Let's not do that. Okay,
Yep,
I'm gonna click play on the video. The suffering needs to begin.
By the way, that There's that art that's in the chat right now. It's very nice. Okay, yeah. Whenever you're ready.
Okay, and
Yes.
You know, just because a Christian has an opinion about what the Bible says doesn't mean that their opinion is right.
gee, I wonder how that must feel, my friend. Sorry, I gotta click play again.
I mean, Christians don't determine truth.
Oh, you're so right about that. Oh my god, the amount of irony and the amount of like lack of self-awareness in this video is just it is astounding. This is Snarky in the chat. Guys, I'm gonna poop out a baby, sir. It's 2019. All right.
But no, you're. It is. It's like last night we were talking about. I said this is going to sound like hyperbole, and I was like, "Well, there you go. Way to have self-awareness with your idiocy," and this is the same thing.
Yeah, this is just lack of self-awareness. Also, we have another fan art. This one was submitted a little earlier, but this one is now animated, as it was not before, so it does actually count now. Sci-Fi posted apparently a cyborg version of me breathing fire, as the creationists believe I do already. All right, now to click the play button, and let's see if there's any more lack of self-awareness that will play through.
Exists completely apart from what people think.
Yeah.
Truth exists completely apart from what people think. Yes, actually, this is why epistemology is your personal theory of truth, and ontology has to do with what is actually true in reality. Yeah. This is why these two things are separate. So, anyway, clicking play again.
Yes.
The goal for Christians is to align their beliefs and behavior with the revealed truth.
The revealed truth. I like that they were very specific about that, because
right,
the revealed truth and the actual they began with there's a difference between what you think is true and what is actually true. So yes, there's a difference between epistemology and ontology. Correct. This is not disputable. And then they shift the goalpost slightly in their next sentence and equivocate revealed truth with truth. It's only an equivocation because they said it in the original sentence, and now they have parsed it in the next sentence, and they're hoping that you do not parse that out. It's, I hate saying that it's a clever use of language, because that implies cleverness when it's actual idiocy. But I guess you can be idiotically clever, so yeah, here we are.
Christian's worldview is rooted in God's revealed truth in the Bible.
That's right, yeah. And the specific truth that we're going to tackle on today's show is the existence of a real historical Adam and Eve.
A real historical Adam and Eve. Okay, so now we have another problem. So a historical Adam and Eve implies that Adam and Eve are not ahistorical. Whereas Adam and Eve are, in fact, ahistorical, just as Moses is ahistorical. These are ahistorical figures. If there's any mythicists in the chat, Jesus is not currently ahistorical. There may be a time where he is. Currently, he is not. So if people want to bash in that chat, eat each other, I don't care. But anyway, so there are ahistorical figures in the Bible. Moses is one of them. Adam and Eve are ahistorical as well, mainly because we know what a genetic bottleneck is, and Adam and Eve's existence, insofar as the biblical narrative is concerned, would lead to a genetic bottleneck to where we would be more inbred and more deficient than cheetahs. Which, for those in the chat who don't know, cheetahs are kind of fucked up. Just a little bit.
A little bit. I talk about them on a regular basis. Now, of course, we absolutely do have, and this is genetically shown to be the case, we have a lupa, last universal primate ancestor. We have that. It's not somebody that was already Homo sapiens, 6,000 years ago. Like that's the point that I think that this is also why I have the conversation a lot of times. A person cannot accept Adam and Eve as real people. Evolutionary theory, and I do this a lot, and the conversations I have try to go around that and parse the words and stuff like that. And I'm like, no, I don't think you understand what I'm saying. Is that if Adam and Eve were real, there is no evolution, especially like hominid evolution. And that means, yeah. And I'm like, so if there's no hominid evolution, that you don't accept evolutionary theory. And the, like, I appreciate what Catholics have done, and that they're saying, okay, well, evolutionary theory is true, but I also believe in God. And I'm like, cool. But you take Genesis as allegory. Fine. Because it's obviously allegory. It is, to me, the way it's written, the wording that is used, the way that it's very much poetry, it shows me that this was their way of saying, this is the reason we settled down on the banks, the Tigris and Euphrates. This is why we are in the Middle East. This is why we are an agrarian society. They had no about anything outside of 25 to 30 miles from where they lived, which is why they thought the world was flat. And they wrote about this, and this is stories that were passed down from far before them. It's like nobody at that time knew anything about anything we know about right now. And so for a person to say, oh, well, I understand about evolution's a thing, but also Adam and Eve were real, the two, to me, don't line up. Who has worked with theistic evolutionary biologists. So that's fun.
It's compartmentalization and it's cognitive dissonance at that point to be able to hold the two at the same time, in my eyes at least. Also, we have a $5 super chat. This is from Virgil Garcia, and by the way, I should probably note that if there's a particular voice that I've ever used before, like the Master Apologist Barney voice, or when I was sick, the Solid Snake voice, or anything like that, let me know when you're sending your super chat, and I will gladly read it in any voice that you particularly want. That said, we'll go ahead and use Solid Snake for this one. I'm not sick, so Snake's not going to be as easy to do. But Virgil Garcia says for $5, cleverness and intelligence are separate things. That being said, I love your content. I'm glad you're not an anti-LGP skeptic. Metal Gear. They didn't say Metal Gear at the end of it. I added that because that flows off the tongue in that voice.
Those of you that don't know who that is. I know that one from. Yeah. I like it when I get some of those. It's kind of nice.
Is it better than like some of the tangents that the Xenomorph conversation went through?
I only know Xenomorph because I read like the YouTube comments from things like some of those movies, and because Aliens was the best of all of them. And so that's why I know what they are. so I just go, yeah, all right, Sigourney Weaver. So,
just like, I know that one. That one works. We did have another fan art that was submitted. This one was submitted over Twitter, but it was submitted during the course of the conversation. And this one is from a user named Pantastic, and they submitted a South Park styled Cirrus, which means that I guess I have to become a lot more vulgar throughout this stream now. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do that. If I get more vulgar, it's going to be because this video did something stupid. Speaking of this video,
I'll be as vulgar as anybody fucking wants. That's okay. I'm happy to. I am willing to go into the vulgarness of as far as one can with science. Happy to.
True, but you also the show that you host is on Periscope, where the live conversation is a little faster. Like you get people can respond because there's less of a delay on Periscope than there is on YouTube, which is really awkward for me because I'm hosting on Periscope as well. And as far as I've been able to see, I don't have a chat that comes in from Periscope. I know that technically I do, I just don't see it. YouTube floods most of it. I should probably get somebody on. I should probably get like a mod on every platform that I stream from to just like look at those messages and see if there's any direct questions that I need to respond to, because I'm only really paying attention to YouTube. I had one guy on Facebook get really mad at me because I wasn't responding to him on Facebook, and I was like, look, no, I'm responding to the YouTube chat primarily. I'm sorry that I'm not responding to this other chat that I physically cannot see currently. As I'm saying that, I'm opening up Facebook to make sure that somebody has not said anything in that chat that I need to respond to. Just in case. But that said, we are going to play the next part of the video because we do have to try to get through some of it, and I need to drum myself up a migraine today.
From which all people who've ever lived on this planet have descended. Now we're gonna outline in the short time that we have here some reasons why Adam and Eve must be real people.
Okay, but let's start with the attacks on the historical Adam. Now, in the past few years, those have come primarily from an organization called BioLogos that promotes the idea that evolution is how God got us here. So
BioLogos is actually a really useful resource.
The Big Bang is true, that life on Earth came from non-living chemicals, that there have been millions of years of terrible disease that killed billions of creatures, and eventually
that BioLogos is
ape-like creatures
because AIG hates them.
Yeah.
Well, what's so...
I love how after they list what BioLogos is and the things that it teaches, they just kind of do that laugh. They just kind of do that laugh there. Just like, yeah. Like, yes, I understand that you think that proper science is cringeworthy. Believe me, proper science thinks that your existence is cringeworthy as well. BioLogos is an incredibly useful resource because they do, in fact, as you guys do, have a bias. And that bias is not something that usually gets put in the way of them trying to publish actual useful data. Whereas what happens with creation ministries usually, that bias actively gets in the way of giving truthful data and facts. Like what we saw with the Tech Times article when that went viral for a little while. Where young Earth creationists latched onto that so hard, like Bible Flockbox did especially, where they went, oh, it says that everything appeared all at once instantaneously 100,000 years ago. And what they read from that actually, even though it said 99% of currently living life, not all at once, not any of that. What they read from it and what they said about it was, look, everything happened instantaneously, therefore creation. I'm like, okay, yes, but you believe the Earth is 6,000 years old. You realize that this article actively argues against that. So to use this article is to undermine your position. It's like the minimal facts argument and the Bayesian analysis for mythicism argument. If you accept one and the methodology for one, then you are free to accept the other. But if you want to accept the one part, you by necessity will have to accept the other unless you can come up with a damn good reason why you can't. So if you want to take that instantaneous part of the Tech Times article, you must come up with a damn good reason why we shouldn't accept the 100,000 years part, which is required for how that article was written.
I think I went on your show right after I had surgery, right? Last year. And Susan could tell you this. I know exactly what article you're talking about, only because I read the actual paper. I wrote a rather lengthy explanation of the actual scientific paper, and I don't know if I put it on Facebook or where I put it while I was in the hospital, because I couldn't sleep, and she was asleep, and I was showing her where we had hadrosaurs in Alaska and stuff, and I was saying, this is the reason that this is here, and this is the reason that this is here, and she's like falling asleep next to me, and I wrote about it, and I was like, Tech Times is not a fucking scientific journal. And even
if we tried to make the argument that it was, it's not a primary source. So don't treat it like it is.
I don't remember if it was before or after I had surgery. I was sitting there in the hospital bed at like 3 a.m, and I was just like this long thing, and I was explaining like types of Pennsylvanian rock and stuff like that. And okay, so it was pre-surgery. Okay, I don't remember that. And then like the next week, because I had actually driven down to I had driven down to Corpus Christi, and I was driving back, and I said, "Oh, Suris is doing this video. I wonder if he'll let me on." And I was talking to Susan about it. And the next thing that we talked, I was sitting there. Oh man, I was listening to you, and I don't remember if it was Bionic or who it was. It was talking about the Tech Times thing. But I was like, "Motherfucker, God damn it, this is the worst fucking God." And I was in the car, and that was pre-surgery, and I was like, "Stop talking about and taking an article in a stupid Tech Times magazine or whatever out of context. It's the next fucking sentence." I was not happy.
No, but right after that, you did get on.
I did, and then I got off. And
Okay.
we actually talked about the earth, the land, the sea, and the air monsters that are mentioned in the Bible.
Yes.
I remember that.
Yes, because when you couldn't remember the air monster, you came back to me about a week later in a private message, just went, "Cyrus, I remembered what the air one is."
I remember in the video, I said, "I'm going to remember this." And I did. And I said, "Hey, check it out." And there it was. So
we do have a
Chuckle.
We do have a $2 super chat from Oddity. This one does not have context, but I do still thank you very much for the $2 super chat. Thank you a ton.
And don't watch Carmen. Don't listen to Michael in the chat. Don't do that. Don't do that to yourself. Susan and I were talking about Carmen the other day. Don't do it. That same chuckle that we heard on this video here from Kent Hovind, and I keep on messing up his kid's name. I forget.
Eric Hovind,
and from Matt Powell, and all that they all have that same chuckle to where it's like I'm like, I swear to God, I will punch you in the throat, and I don't make that threat light, like, because you're not a scientist, and you're saying, "Oh, these children." I'm like, no, dude, that's not you don't get a chuckle like that because you're not the teacher here.
That to say, if anything, you're the propagandist here, and that's usually not a positive place to be. Speaking of that, I'm going to go ahead and hit play and maybe burn a few brain cells out in the slowest and most painful way possible, which is by watching CMI.
What's so dangerous about this organization is that it's led by people who call themselves evangelical Christians.
Yes, yeah, and because of that, many Christians turn off their discernment detector and get deceived by the statements they make.
Okay, I'm gonna...
Audio changed. Moved from one camera to the other.
They don't have a fucking master file.
I'm sorry,
They don't have a master file for their audio. Secondly, aside from them not having a master file for their audio, which bothers me as a content producer, because a master audio file is incredibly freaking important. You can have multiple video files. That's fine. Splice them together in whatever way you want. But please have a master audio file. It's really important. Aside from that is an aside to what I want to focus on, which is one, the scam call that I keep getting. Two, for anybody who doesn't know, I'm a fan of League of Legends, so if you keep hearing the wonderful bumpy boppy music from Lulu Mix, that's a wonderful video. Please watch it. That's random shameless plug for things I enjoy. That said, that's out of the way. That's not important. What is important, however, is I want to point out how much absolute projection is happening in this video.
Yeah.
So
yeah, they called them dangerous.
They're dangerous because, okay, let's take these statements that they've said and let's steelman them as best we can so far, and let us see if they do not apply directly to Creation Magazine. They call themselves real Christians, and that is why they are such a dangerous organization. They call themselves real Christians, and as a result, people stop turning off their discernment detectors. We would call that they turn off their skepticism. So if I take those arguments and I fit them in this box, and I give that box to Creation Magazine, and they open up that box and look at the arguments, they'll go, hey, this shit was meant for me! I wonder why. Because it's projection. It works just as well for them, if not better. And we're completely ignoring the fact that the no true Scotsman fallacy is going to come up here. Like, we know that that's a thing that's going to happen.
Yeah, I find the biggest thing I have with this, and this is where I use the word abuse, young earth creationism, and people saying that Adam and Eve were real, is that they're telling this to children. Telling children... Thank you for the banana thing.
League of Legends players know it's Soraka. Anyway, continue.
That was really good timing.
They tell children that, yes, it was a banana.
That stuff is real. It's dangerous because you're telling kids don't listen to your teachers at school. You're telling me that who tries to, and I think fail because you can't accept these things, because if there is no Adam, if there's no real Adam and Eve, there's no first original sin, there's no need for Jesus, there's no Christianity. I take issue with that across the board, and I can do a whole show on that. And put the two together and say, yes, science is real, and yes, Jesus exists. That. You say they're dangerous. You hypocritical pricks.
That's why I typically, and I usually in my videos, I will point out when somebody is projecting, because I find that to be one of the worst types of hypocritical nonsense that you can fall into, is when you are projecting so hard that you make my modular phone that came with a projector jealous of your capabilities. The 70-inch screen that my phone can shoot out onto a wall is actively jealous of the mental gymnastics you've managed to use. That said, we do have a new fan art that came in from Bumblin' Bee, which is another feminized Surus, because I don't think there's another type anymore. Bumblin' Bee also, by the way, if you look at the thumbnail, the Creationism, Why Is It So Stupid, the Surus avatar that is used in that thumbnail has also been done by Bumblin' Bee. It was given to me a while ago, and it was used during the April 1st video for a little bit of channel history. And we also have a $5 super chat from Diesel Jester. This one does not have what voice I should read it in, but I will go ahead and choose the Master Apologist Barney voice. Be wary of any organization that wants to recruit you to be sheep in the flock that is led around by a shepherd. They are the people who want to slaughter me.
We'll add it at the end.
I will always add. What's up?
One that did the Hovind impression whenever I was on. Was it you?
No, the Hovind impression, Aaron Raw does the Hovind impression.
Okay.
Now, granted, I can do a Hovind impression, but usually it just comes to saying "water" all over and over again. Water. So my Hovind impression is not perfect or spot on, but it is okay, I suppose. I'm a little more partial to my Mickey Mouse.
Definitely Mickey Mouse. We'll go with that.
That's one that I'm able to do decently well. I could also do it. To be honest, though, if I want the real, authentic Hovind impression, it needs to be me holding up a sign saying I am a liar, whilst also saying I am not a liar. That also works for Matt Powell.
That's Matt Powell's number one thing. I just got 2 emails in a row because Susan and I we hate each other. 2 emails. Oh no, not in a row, but I got them anyways. Dallas, which is the First Baptist Dallas Church down here, is where Robert Jeffress. We gave them our email addresses because that's how we got our free books and all that stuff. And they're like, you should come back to church. This weekend we're talking about how to be one with Jesus and not be isolated. And I'm like, well.
But if you're arguing to be one with Jesus, specifically in how to be in a church environment, sometimes those can be the most isolated and isolating environments there are.
I was going to say, if you want to be more isolated than anything else, be one with Jesus. Congratulations.
Fair enough. We do have another $1 super chat. This is from Valerie Ross. This one did not come with context, so I cannot do any funny voices today. Not for that one. But I will go ahead and click the play button and continue, and ideally still be able to think afterwards.
The things they say are completely opposed to what the Bible teaches.
No, that is not the case. BioLogos actually specifically... Oh, boy! No, BioLogos...
Oh, Francis Collins.
So, BioLogos specifically works the way it does so that it can show things and then say, these things do not mean that you can't be a Christian. Like, that's kind of their MO, is that, hey, here's this information. This information is true. It is scientific. You can still be a Christian because we are too. And you know what? That's fine. If there's one thing that I said at the forum, and I will say it again, I would rather have millions of educated Christians who understand science and understand good, have a good mentality for figuring out good moral structures and things like that, and do not appeal to the Bible as an authority for those, as opposed to having just as many atheists who lacked that education. I would rather the Christians who are educated than the atheists who are not, and that is coming from the atheists. I think that one of those would lead to a better society. I do not care if somebody is a Christian. If you want to be a Christian, or if you don't feel like that's a want thing, that's just a thing that you are, cool, go ahead, do your thing. But please be educated, please do not spread misinformation. Would I like you to deconvert? Well, yes, but that's because I'm a human and tribalism is a thing we can't really avoid. It's just a thing that's innate to us. But I would like that education here. So what BioLogos does, I see as at least marginally more honest than what CMI does. That's just me, though.
Yeah. Hey, I have a question, and it's off topic for a half a second.
Sure.
And I'm sorry, but I have to ask. Is Master Apologist in your chat?
Is he? Hold on.
Thought I saw somebody say his name.
He is not currently in the chat.
Okay, good. I thought I saw somebody say meet Master Apologist, and I was like, I'm going to exit the chat. Nathaniel has exited the chat.
God has exited the chat.
Like I am... Nope. Oh, you mocked him. Okay, thanks. Because that motherfucker keeps trying to debate me, and I'm like, leave me alone.
He asked me if I could DM him when I pointed out that proximity to Max Colby or Dean Esme is very detrimental because he's a very toxic individual. They said, can you DM me? And I just haven't DM'd because it's... At that point, it's like, look, I could DM you, but I said my point that proximity to this individual is bad. I said that publicly. I don't think there's any more that I can say privately that I can't just say publicly. Like, what more am I going to add to that conversation in DMs?
And Susan too. He keeps wanting to debate Susan. And first off, Susan is not me. She
he is a misogynist.
Yeah.
Which means that Susan is you in his eyes because a partner is the glorification of the husband.
And he said, bring Susan with you. And I said, Susan will come if she fucking wants to. But the fact that, and she's right, he won't take no for an answer. And he, man, I like, I told him I will not debate you now or ever in the future. So please stop it. And he said, it would be an honor for you to debate me. And I said, I don't know that you just said that properly, or maybe you did.
Oh no, he meant it in the way that he said it, believe me. That's I have a folder on my computer that is a masterclass of his most cringy tweets.
God, how big is your folder?
Well, the folder is only 25 tweets large because I stopped collecting them because I only made the 2 Master Apologist videos. I've since taken them down because he requested them to be taken down, and there apparently was some issue with like a brain injury, and I can't verify that one way or another, so I figured, hey, people have already seen it. The legacy is there. They know it's there. The videos are on unlisted, so when people want to see them, they can just DM me and say, "Hey, can I see the Master Apologist videos?" Cool, I'll send them your way. But
Yeah.
I opted not to make a third in the series because of the head injury thing. But there is still that part of me that goes, look, you're still culpable for your actions, and your actions are very detrimental. We'll just say that.
Yeah.
Very
well, that also,
detrimental.
and Steve did tell me that he had injury, and that even though he said there's no lasting impact there, that's part of the reason that because I was on him yesterday, and Steve and I spoke a little bit, and then he said, "Oh, but he's still an idiot. Don't worry about it." And I was like, "Oh, okay." But that also kind of goes into the thing: is our soul attached to our brain type deal, right? And that's something that has been brought up more than once. Like if our brain is damaged in a way that we are no longer the same person,
Pearson and Stephen Tays, my
we're atheists now or whatever, or something happens, are we still, which part of our soul, which part of our brain do we actually say is number one? Because this is obviously not us anymore. And so I think that would apply to him as well in some form or fashion.
We do have another super chat from Valerie Ross, and DD. I don't know what DD means. If it's Donald Duck, I cannot do that voice. That is not a voice that I have the capacity to do. But it is a $10. As for who read that, I do have a my Streamlabs is set to automatically broadcast $10 and higher super chats. And they broadcast them in a robot voice. So you get to hear it in the robot voice, and then you get to hear it in my voice. I guess I can. So who here is a fan of old Inspector Gadget? Because I could do. I could do Dr. Claw's voice for that. It's gonna hurt the back of my throat, but I could do it. I'll do that.
It's definitely back. It's back there.
It's a very back of the throat pain voice. But yeah, I'll use that one. We have Diesel Jester in there. Woo, Dr. Claw. So yeah, no, we'll do it.
Understand like Jesse Peterson and Stephen Tays my incontinence out Anderson. Understand the world. They are hate preacher gold. Make me throw up in my mouth every time.
Oh God, that was painful.
I could tell that hurt like halfway through.
God.
I could feel your like
God. That's I think I can better do Solid Snake's voice now because of the pain. Jeebus.
I was at a wonder. I was like, okay, now how do you go from that one into doing something like because I can do like Bane really well. I don't know how I could go from that and have a voice left to go into something else like you sound like drunk Batman into like Bane.
Well, I mean, from that one, it would probably be easier to do like Snake afterwards, because to do Solid Snake's voice well, I need gravel in my voice, and that comes from making my vocal cords hurt. They can either hurt because I'm sick. When I'm sick, I can do that voice way better. If I did the Dr. Claw voice for a longer amount of time, it would actually aid in doing the Solid Snake voice, but it might not necessarily work towards something like Joker or my Joker voice is closer to Shaco from League of Legends, because I guess I have the same vocal range as Adam Harrington for reasons, I guess. Can you tell that I like voice actors? But
I was wondering if you're going to do Mark Hamill at that point.
Well, so Adam Harrington's Shaco voice channels Mark Hamilton's Joker, and because my vocal range is closer to Adam Harrington's than it is Mark Hamill's, my Joker comes across as Shaco, not Joker. Which it sucks, because I would prefer if I could do the Joker's voice better, but I just can't. I'll try to do that voice the next time a super chat comes in. If there's enough text to work with, I'll try to do it in Joker's voice. Bear in mind, I have not done that one in a few months, so it might come off a little rusty for a little bit. So if you guys are willing to bear with me on that one. That said,
they called out your misstep with Mark Hamill. Because I'd like to point out, by the way, that if it's
I don't
Mark
know why
Hamilton,
I don't know why I said Hamilton.
I do. Lin-Manuel fucking Miranda can play that character, and I'm going to let it happen.
Diesel gesture. Oh, hold on. Carry the conversation for like 2 seconds, Nathaniel. I'm going to make sure that I can do this one justice. Oh, wow. Are you still there, Nathaniel?
Yes.
Okay, I was going to say continue your point for a second while I can mute.
That was my point. I literally, I realized that you accidentally said Mark Hamilton, but if you can get Mark Hamill and Lin-Manuel Miranda together to play Hamilton, forever. I will watch that, listen to that, create, edit, soundtrack, everything, pay all the money on it. He's like a Jedi Alexander Hamilton. Oh my God, Joker. Yes. Everything about that is
it's literally all the best things together. Okay,
about it is perfect.
So Diesel gestures for $5. Cyrus, with voices like that, how come you're not reading for Audible? Yeah, see, no, it's much closer to Shaco than Joker.
Still thought it was good.
It could be passable, but it's not Hamill. Like there is no Joker that surpasses Hamill, and yet people who disagree are objectively wrong.
True. No, absolutist wrong. That well, the voice actor, anyways. I'd like to point out that that's the case.
Yeah, Hamill's. When I'm saying that, I'm saying Hamill's Joker. There is not a Joker that is better than Hamill's Joker.
Oh, buddy.
Sci-Fi Mind in the chat says, Cyrus, your voice was more Professor Crowler. I mean, yes, but if it was Professor Crowler, it would be, look, I'm going to summon my ancient gears! He's got a little more, like... Crowler has a little more grandioseness to his voice because he's more full of himself than Joker, which is really weird that he had... I still have never understood why Crowler uses the ancient gears. It's just weird to me. I'm going to hit the play button.
Yeah.
Example, Francis Collins, he was the director of the Human Genome Project years ago and is currently serving as the director of the National Institutes of Health in the U.S.
Hi, Francis.
So he's no lightweight in science.
Right.
He said,
oh boy, are you ready for the quote mine? Let's do it.
anatomically
Yes,
modern
here it is.
humans emerged from primate ancestors perhaps 100,000 years ago, long before the Genesis timeframe, and originated with a population that numbered something like 10,000, not 2 individuals.
That wasn't even a quote. That was actually a respectable.
That was real.
That was a respectable usage of the quote. Okay. The capitalization was off, but you know what? That's fine. Let's go with that.
I'm okay with this. Good job.
How are they going to misrepresent it? Let's find out.
Does that shock you?
Oh, it doesn't shock me at all.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't shock me at all, my friend. It doesn't shock me at all, not the least.
According to him, humans did not come from Adam and Eve, as the Bible clearly says.
No, it does not clearly say that. It clearly says that if you are a biblical literalist. Also, I love the face that he has paused on. This is wonderful. Like, this face is love.
Which one did you pause on? I have to look back and look.
But no, there are enough Christians. There are enough Christians who can take the Genesis account as metaphorical or allegorical for it not for the statement, as the Bible clearly says, to be factually incorrect. So no. Like, if you're just saying, does the Bible say there were an Adam and Eve that were the originator of the human species? Yes, the Bible says that. But is that the only way you could possibly interpret that? No. And they're going to argue that's the only way you can interpret it, and therefore Francis Collins must be wrong. This comes from this really awkward idea that the Bible has to be put first, and then anything else comes second. So if the Bible says it is one way, things are one way, and then something else comes along later and says, well, it's not this way. Let's take a historical approach. The census, Herod's census. Let's take something like Herod's census. Herod's census doesn't really... We don't really have an accurate timeline for his census working the same way it was described in the Bible, but it must be the way it is in the Bible because the Bible must be true, regardless of what history we can find to verify it. The Exodus must have happened, even though we have Jewish archaeologists who have been doing their damnedest to prove that and have come to the conclusion that it likely didn't happen.
That's what Hovind says, right? Eric Hovind. He says, if science and the Bible disagree, I go with the Bible. The Bible is the source of the truth and all that stuff. And I'm like, that's about that shows an amount of dishonesty. Now, I guess it's respect. I respect the amount of dishonesty he's willing to hold on to with that.
It's like there's something to be said about being consistent. And I can respect the consistency, even if it means that you are wrong.
Yeah.
Also, I feel as though I know for a fact that people who are listening to this, a lot of them don't know what you look like, Nathaniel, and the evidence for that is in the fan art that was just submitted, because the spooning fan art was submitted.
Dear God.
And in this, the person spooning me does in fact have hair. Which means it definitely cannot be Nathaniel.
There is a cartoon version of me on my profile.
Oh well. Here we are.
I want to see it.
Like button on Cirrus' channel tastes funny.
I am taller than you though, so that works out.
I mean, are you taller than me?
Like by a couple of like an inch or two, I think. Yeah, you're what, 5'8", 5'9"?
No. I'm 5'6", 5'7".
Oh yeah, I'm definitely taller than you, dude. I hang around 5'10" most days.
Okay, then yeah, no. I'm just a tiny guy. Also, I see in the Facebook chat, my friend Baldemar is watching, which is not what I would have expected, but I wish I could go to my local card shop more often and hang out with them. Anywho.
Susan said I have hair. She's never seen that before, so thanks. Take all of the hair that's on the top of my head and place it on my face, and you get it. There you go. It's not all. So to let you know this, now the representation that I have on Daniel that's on there is fairly close, except for I have a rather beard, and so it's all like different colors and stuff. I don't think she doesn't think she likes it. Susan does. Susan hates your fan art.
Oh darn. That's okay. I've learned that I have a love-hate relationship with all of my fan art. I have to, whether or not I love or hate the fan art that comes in, I recognize that I have to accept it, no matter how many embarrassing positions I find myself in the fan art. So, yeah, no. Yep. She will live, you will live. This is a normal thing that happens. You guys will be all right.
Also more muscular than I am. But we're going to fix that shit. What the hell?
Yeah, no, I am. So if you put me and Nathaniel next to one another, I am twice his size, but only because I am fat, not because of muscle.
I've grown because after my surgery and other things that have gone on, I've grown like a bit of a dad bod, I guess. I'm not a dad. I mean, the two corgis, but other than that, other than Cirrus is. So, whoever wants to make that. I'll submit a photo. Let's see, from when I was playing. I was playing softball a few years back before I lost like all of my other weight. I don't know, 185 or so, and I was pretty jacked, Cirrus. So maybe I'll submit that, and somebody can make I'll spoon like you with that photo, and then we'll do that.
Well,
but
continue.
Susan likes my dad bod. Apparently, I had it on the other day.
I'm sure he gives her a wonderful pillow.
she does put her head on my chest sometimes. But I the other day was wearing this shirt for Star Wars Day. Because it's never tell me the odds, but it's like a child put it together, and therefore definitely something I would have made. And we go hiking a lot, except for now we don't because she's injured currently. And I have like my hiking backpack, my 40-liter hiking backpack, and I went and I snapped the bottom, which is like the hip and back support, and I went all together. Oh no, I can't bring up my hip support. What's going on here? I was like, I had a moment again of was like, oh, I guess I've gained some weight in the midsection, and that's never happened to me before. So I'm getting old, sirs.
Well, this video is also getting old, and we've only managed through 3 minutes of it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry. Let's get back into that. I am sorry.
It's fine. Oh, boy.
Right. And to clarify this issue further, an article in Christianity Today reported, in a recent pro-evolution book from InterVarsity Press, The Language of Science and Faith, Collins and co-author Carl W. Giberson escalate matters, announcing that, unfortunately, the concepts of Adam and Eve as the literal first couple and the ancestors of all humans simply do not fit the evidence.
The evidence, yeah. Not all the evidence he prefers, but...
What part are you at?
Wait a minute. So I'm at 3 minutes and 43 seconds, and it says, the evidence that he prefers. All right, guys, we're going to play a game. We're going to play a little game here. We're going to play a game. All right.
Just like, okay, there it is.
No, trust. This is going to be a great game. Half my audience might survive it. So, I'm going to do this with tea because I'm a bitch boy. But I'm going to go ahead and pour myself a little bit of tea. And we're going to do
I need alcohol. Oh.
We're going to play a game. Whatever liquid you happen to have near you, please make sure that it's not like 100% proof, because otherwise you might die. I would prefer none of my fans die, so please don't. But yes, no, my channel sometimes does have these drinking games, and they never end well. So we're going to do a thing. Anytime that these guys project, they say something that could equally be used against them, take a drink. Just a gulp, a shot, however you want to do it. And you know what? If you're doing it with alcohol, God help your soul.
Yeah.
All right. And penis. Continue. Oh, God, why? No. Penis would be much more bearable than what we're dealing with right now, and I'm straight.
At a university address, Collins said, "There's no way you can develop this level of variation between us from one or two ancestors." Okay, so here he gives what he thinks is a reason for rejecting the clear biblical teaching that all people come from Adam and Eve.
Yeah, and actually he's wrong scientifically, too.
It's true, yeah.
Wait.
Yeah, that's exactly where I stopped at. I stopped at 354.
Wait. And he's wrong scientifically, too.
How?
Oh my God. Crypto in the chat, the two creationists in the video look like evil universe Penn and Teller. If you consider Y chromosome Adam and mitochondrial Eve, hold on.
If you consider Y chromosome Adam and mitochondrial Eve, now we're not going to focus on the genetic data today, but if you want details on that,
the non-mythical Adam and Eve.
So, okay. Language is descriptive.
I thought you were pulling a Captain America on me. I was like, what?
No, I'm not doing a Captain America. Language, everybody. No. No. Language, as anyone should know, is descriptive. It's not prescriptive. There is never and has never been language that is prescriptive of an object. It is descriptive of an object, which means the object exists and then we as humans have an arbitrary set of points we use to define it. We use what is called language. So, if I say, Nathaniel, You are my friend.
Agree.
Okay. Friend is a descriptor of a relationship that we do in fact have. Now, I could use any word there, and its usage could be whatever the fuck I want. Because that's how language works. So the mere fact that we have given the name Adam and Eve, so mitochondrial Eve, the mere fact that we have given those names to those items does not legitimize those items as actually referring to Adam and Eve. The only reference is veneration of the mythos. As an example of this, we have the Sonic movie coming up. We have a gene called Robotnik. Does that mean that Dr. Ivo Eggman Robotnik was a historical figure? No! It doesn't. That does not mean that. If it did, we would live in the Sonic the Hedgehog universe, and that movie would be talking about our freaking apocalypse. So, no. The mere fact that we have an item in the human body labeled Robotnik, the mere fact that we have one labeled Pikachu, does not mean that those are real things, as much as I would like, as evidenced by my Eevee plushies behind me, as much as I would like that to be the case. The mere fact that we've named something Adam or Eve does not mean Adam and Eve were historical figures. So please, don't do something this stupid. But these two are doing something this stupid. I'm going to hit the play button and see how much more stupid we can find. And remember, projection means shot.
The article,
the non-mythical Adam and Eve, by the way, I don't know if they actually get into it or not, but it was written by Robert Carter back in, it's been a few years back. Robert Carter, he's fairly well known within, he works at CMI. Within biology, especially genetics, because he went to University of Miami. So if you're a Hurricanes fan, and he actually does have a PhD in marine biology, but it's the genetics of marine biology. And so he would be qualified as a geneticist, but whatever. I'm just not going to get into all that. But he's fairly well known for not having written thing, and having like nothing for the most part in a journal. Period. Except for going on to.
Man, that sounds a lot like some other people I could name. I'm just not going to.
No, yeah. And so it's like. And I have never actually read the non-mythical Adam and Eve thing, but I don't.
They have the article. Imagine. They have the article right here. So they have it here, but I don't know if they're going to talk about it. But they do have it on their screen right now, by Robert W. Carter, the non-mythical Adam and Eve, refuting errors by Francis Collin and BioLogos.
That's him.
Let's see.
Let's see what they.
Let's see what they do with this. And go.
Refuting Errors by Francis Collins and BioLogos. It's written by our geneticist, Dr. Rob Carter, and it's available at creation.com/BioLogos.
Don't go over it at all.
Good article.
They're just scrolling through
Collins
it.
Seems to have made a huge...
Wait. You have a 28-minute long video. Okay? 28 minutes is long. These fuckos... It took me 30 minutes to get through half of one of their videos and provide the sources for all of their quote mines. And then I had to do another video that was 40 minutes on top of that to go through the other half of the video. Point is, if you have a 30-minute long video, that article did not seem that long. Like, what, 2 pages?
No, it was more than 2 pages, but it had more than a few graphics on it. So realistically, wording and whatnot, probably 2.5 pages.
So not long at all. Shorter than a biblical gender roles article, which I get into a lot. So it would not have been hard for them to go through at least For people who are so good at quote mining, it's almost like they could have gone through a few of the fucking paragraphs in there and used them, but they decided not to, which is really telling.
I don't know why they wouldn't use the entire article.
It seems like they should just
geneticist...
take that article and use it. Now, granted, we're only 4.5 minutes into the video. There is a chance. There's a chance that they go in it. But because they said, go ahead and check out the article, it's a good article, it's from our geneticist. Because they did that, I can only take the assumption that they might not go into it. But I'm gonna hit play. I'm gonna see. We're gonna see what they do.
While this is happening, I'll let you know. I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna read it.
Okay.
Huge mistake in genetics, and the data actually contradicts his claim that we cannot come from two people.
Wait, the data contradicts his claim that we cannot come from two people. Then maybe you should talk about the article. Hitting play again.
And scientifically, yes, all the variations seen today between people groups can and did come from two people.
Wait. Hold on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Scientifically, all the data says that we can and did come from two people. Okay, so
that's not true, and I don't know how much you want to go into.
So there is a technical way in which it's correct. We all came from two people. You came from two people, your mom and dad. I came from two people, my mom and dad. We all came from two people. It's technically not an untrue statement. However,
they're trying to say.
They're not trying to say it that way, and we know that. We know that. Also, I'm going to show the link. It gave me a thing as to whether or not I should hide that. So, this is the article that they're talking about. We're going to see if I can't make this. There's no way that I can do this. But we can read most of it. So. Hold on. The non-mythical Adam and Eve. Let's go through their actual article. I'll take a paragraph, then Nathaniel will take a paragraph, and we'll bounce back and forth, and we will yell and scream and cringe together like good friends do.
Yeah.
In recent weeks, we have received multiple inquiries about the historicity of Adam and Eve, including email questions through creation.com. Questions after church talks, seminary courses we have given, call-in questions during radio interviews, yada, yada, yada. I don't really fucking care. This has been precipitated by a significant amount of press coverage of Francis Collins and other members of his organization, BioLogos. Collins was the director of the Human Genome Project and is currently serving as the director of the National Institute of Health. So he is no lightweight in science. Okay, cool. What they are currently doing. What's the word for it? There's a word for the way this is working. When you set up your opponent as an incredibly strong. Oh no, that's not what this is.
This is. God damn it.
Also, Collins claims to be an evangelical Christian. When a person of this caliber speaks on the relationship between science and faith, people sit up and listen. Okay, cool. So they've established this person as credentialed and influential, and that's all that.
Yeah.
That's all that paragraph was for. So we'll get into the next paragraph.
He says, this was written in 2011. I found that. So what Carter goes on to say is, yet the things he has been saying are completely opposed to what CMI believes and what the Bible clearly teaches. The source there, the number 3, is simply the CMI faith, called the Testament of the Statement of Faith. The rash of questions we have received of late center around his claims that there is no evidence for Adam and Eve and that there is no physical way we could have come from two ancestors in the recent past. A high-profile article appeared in Christianity Today last June, so it'd be June of 2010, in which the following quotes appeared. I'm certain this isn't taken out of context. Bestseller, The Language of God, a scientist presents evidence for belief. Indications that anatomically modern humans emerged from primate ancestors. Perhaps we saw this already, right? Long before Genesis. So we actually saw this.
Yeah, this is the quote that they used in their thing.
Yeah. Gilbertson. Yep. Next one in their video. He went apparently to Pepperdine University, which I respect Pepperdine. There's no way you can develop this level of variation between us from one or two ancestors. Now, I would not necessarily have used the word variation because creationists like to take the word variation and use it for their own purposes. He went on to NPR. It's kind of just talking about how he's saying that mutation rates are just not possible. It would mutate us out of existence.
So this looks like right now, all of this is just taking all these quotes so they can establish what the opponent's position is, or at least establish what they want the article to state that the opponent's position is so that they can talk about it. Now, whether this is a steel man or a straw man, we will see.
Well, they bring up Richard Dawkins. They bring up Richard Dawkins. It says that, and this is like, I don't know, right below where it's about BioLogos and the variation. Only right amount of respect one receives from the world when they mix evolution and Christianity. See the concept or the contempt coming from arch-atheist. I love that he's the arch-atheist. Good job, Richard. I don't know who gave you that title, but Richard Dawkins, it was only ever symbolic. So in order to impress himself, Jesus had himself tortured and executed in vicarious punishment for symbolic sin committed by a non-existent individual. As I said, barking mad as well as viciously unpleasant. Thank you, Richard, for being when he says it than I am. And they talk about Richard. They put. This is actually really amazing, and it's a really great literary device. They put on the same level as Richard Dawkins.
Which means that they're trying to say... They're basically trying to do a guilt by association move here by saying, look, Dawkins is against us, and we don't like Dawkins. Francis Collins is saying the same types of things that Dawkins is saying, therefore Francis Collins is also in the same other group. That's what it seems like the intent is. Now, granted, we don't know if that's what the intent is yet because we have yet to see the rest of the article or read it here live at least. But, of course, we can assume that this is a method of trying to do so. So we're going to scroll, and we're going to take a look at getting to the root of the issue. It cannot be overstated that in each of the examples given above, the two theistic evolutionists are basically basing their conclusions on evolutionary assumptions. That hit right in the stupid.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So if this could be applied equally to them in some form or fashion, applies to this article as well. So get ready to take your drinks because just replace evolutionary with biblical assumptions, and this is projection 101. I was also an excuse because I was thirsty. Make everybody suffer with me. Specifically, they are appealing to deep time, common ancestry, deep time. Okay. They're appealing to deep time, common ancestry, mutation, drift, selection as the sole explanation for human genetics. I wasn't aware there was another one. They do indeed have a tremendous amount of data available to them, including the massive amounts generated by the Human Genome Project, the ENCODE Project, the HapMap Project, and the ongoing 1,000 Genomes Project. Yet, since these are public databases, creationists have access to the same data with which to misrepresent it. Even while the world is soaking up their claims, why is it that creationists are not running away? I have an answer for this. Everybody in the chat. In the chat, if the answer is they're dishonest, press G. If the answer is they're stupid, press H. And if the answer is both, go ahead and press J. And I'm going to get a little bit of a source on there. And when I get that in, I'll go ahead and give you my answer to it. Now, granted, bear in mind that there are some individuals that are one or the other. I'm asking for on the whole, like by and large. That's a lot of J's.
Didn't expect that.
So dishonest and stupid. Okay, cool. That's about what I was going to say too. Now, granted, there are some that are legitimately duped. and are not stupid, they are just ignorant. And there are some that are impervious to facts and therefore are stupid. And then there are some that know the facts and are just dishonest. And then there are some, like the ones at CMI, I would assume, that are both quite idiotic and dishonest. And I would go ahead and say that all the J's in the chat reflect that as well. Press F to pay respects from Banana Junior 11. Drag Worker says J for more alcohol poisoning.
If they're being just dishonest, this is like a Kent Hovind type of thing where it's obvious he's dishonest. And at that point, I don't hate the guy for taking advantage of capitalism. At that point, right? Because that's what capitalism is. You find a market, you find your niche, and you take advantage of it. But being dishonest and saying you're dishonest and taking your dishonesty to a credulous public that you're speaking on behalf of God, supposedly, which is supposed to be all honesty all the time. That gets into more of like a religious right type of thing, I think, with me. But it's like you're supposed to be honestly for God, and yet we know by the things you say that you're lying. It's I don't think Hovind is in any way stupid. Ken Ham is. We can have the conversation, I guess. But Ken Hovind is this.
I think Hovind's leans more towards dishonesty. Ken Ham's is definitely an even mixture of both. We know that he's definitely dishonest. There's no doubt about that. But because his epistemology is because I have this book and it gets no further than that, that's hyper-stupicism. I'm just going to go ahead and coin that right now. It's hyper-stupicism.
What do you think it is whenever a person is told to their face over and over and over again that the thing that they are saying is wrong and they don't correct it?
It depends on how that person views their life. So, for instance, if you have a persecution complex, then somebody telling you that you're wrong repeatedly is actually a validation for your side, not an argument against your side. Which is unfortunate because it means that if you were to say something nightmarishly ignorant, like, I don't know, I think that there is a chance that we could cure HIV by killing all of the gay people, which is something that Steven Anderson has said repeatedly, and Kent Hovind has said from jail, and we've heard from people like Matt Powell and many others. It's something that is so nightmarishly ignorant and so disastrously dangerous, and yet, when they are told they are wrong on this, it's like they're impervious to it. And I don't really know what to call it except unfortunate.
And I think that's fine as well. I actually, whenever I was talking to Aaron last weekend, because that was like a question. It was an Aaron Raw and Kent. Remember that was a question of one of like the people that came up and talked to one of you guys, and it had to do with Aaron and Kent Hovind. Mm-hmm. And I turned around and I talked to him and I said, hey, couldn't, because of how blatantly dishonest Kent Hovind is, I said I couldn't listen to your videos with him. I click on them specifically because I give views and stuff to the people that I respect and people that I know, or people like you and him that like we're friends and all of that. I could not listen to Kent Hovind speak because you've been told this stuff again about how what you're saying is inaccurate, and that it's not the fact that this idea that the Earth is 6,000 years old. No, these are things that you're saying that scientists have said. You're continuing to say this, even though these particular scientists have even said to you, "We've never said that." I was like, "So I'm sorry, but I couldn't listen to those videos, man." He's like, "Oh, that's fine." So
Yeah. That said, there is more of this article to go to, which is, needless to say, I take great exception to the dogmatism of the BioLogos spokespeople. Okay. Take your drinks, guys. can be equally used for them. I do not believe that the data supports their conclusion. God damn it!
Have
That's
fun with
another
that.
one. Okay. And I believe it's entirely unfair to exclude the creation model without ever considering what the implications of the model would be. Can that one? I'm
Oh,
gonna
yes. Oh, yes.
because
Yeah.
all we have to do is say the evolutionary model without considering the implications of it. Oh God. Oh God. I'm gonna be out of tea soon. 3 shots in 3 sentences. Please, you guys can survive. I swear. I'm not even drinking alcohol. Oh, damn it! I just read ahead, and I know there's more.
Yeah.
In scientific terms, they failed to propose a null hypothesis that could be ruled out by evidence. God damn it!
Oh, God. Oh, my God.
I don't want more tea.
Let's see.
I have written about the predictions of the straightforward biblical model several times, including my articles on Adam and Eve, Noah versus modern genetics, and the neutral model of evolution of recent African origins, and does genetics point to a single primal couple? There are 2 issues at hand. The first, there's an a priori exclusion. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
Well,
So there's an a priori on both sides. This can equally be used for both. So
yeah. They exclude anything that's science. So
if it's not in the Bible, then it's excluded. They have an a priori as well. Okay. Following ardent atheists like Richard Lewontin,
who the fuck
how does
cares?
that even factor into the argument? Okay, you know what?
It's a word. It's the flag word. They have to use it.
Following, because they have to say following ardent atheists. Like this is all, like evolution is somehow part of atheism or vice versa. And it's
they keep
fucking not. The second is their appeal to mutation as the sole source of genetic diversity. Their appeal is to freaking what is it called when a god divine intervention or something like that as the sole method for genetic diversity. I guess that's another one.
If nothing else, this is a logical fallacy regardless.
I'm gonna have to take a massive piss when we're done here. Okay. Now, continuing. The second is that, of course, there has not been enough time to accumulate all the diversity we see in people today. If Adam was homozygous et al. Loki. I'm not sure if I understand that. I'm actually fairly certain I don't.
A homozygous is when you have the one from your parent, basically. You have one from each parent.
Oh, yes, and because Adam had no parent, he would not be a homozygous.
Yeah, and then Adam would have had the identical chromosomes pairs, if you will. If that's the case, that Adam would have had born with chromosomes that he's going to pass on, and it would have been exact chromosome pairs with no genetic mutations or anything like that, which also then would mean that Eve had no genetic mutations.
It also says that is a straw man argument. Oh boy.
It's not even a straw man argument.
Oh boy, this tea is looking real tasty.
It's not just the fact that you got to drink, but it's not even a straw man argument. It's
not
reality.
A straw man. So for those who are not aware, it's just the straw man, the most commonly used fallacy, aside from false appeals to the reductio ad absurdum. False appeals to reductio is like one of the biggest ones, but second to that would probably be straw man. So a straw man requires 2 things. It requires a misrepresentation, and it requires intent. That's the other thing. A straw man requires intent, and an intent to misrepresent. Now, granted, replace intent with stupidity, and you can also get one that way, but they usually go hand in hand. So, do we have a misrepresentation of the data? Well, yes, but not from Francis Collins.
It's impossible because there is no data.
And do we have an intentional? Do we have intent here in the misrepresentation? Well, yes, again, but not from Francis Collins. So, okay.
But I would, and I'm sorry, I have to do this. I would challenge. What's this? I keep on this guy again, Carter. I would challenge him to show me the data is that would have been like perfect Adam would have been born or created what the fuck ever with anything other than a perfect genome.
And if Adam had a perfect genome, how the fuck did it mutate?
Because Eve would have had a perfect genome as well. She would have. You're talking, XX and XY chromosomes at this point. Like this would have been First off, how was her chromosome different? Okay, well, no genetics, but whatever. But they would have been like she would have been a clone necessarily because you're taking his genetics. Let's point this shit out, by the way, that this is all nonsense. We're not speaking at this like we believe real. Way that if you want me to consider the fact that Adam had a different set of data, like of DNA, provide me with some fucking genetic materials that I can look at.
Yeah, but we can never do that.
Yeah, because there is none, and because this isn't real science.
Also, I love how that paragraph ends with, why would anyone believe Adam had no genetic diversity built into his genome from the beginning? Do you want a straw man argument? It's that no one believes that. Except, insofar as Adam did not exist, therefore him having genetic diversity built into him is a nonsense statement. So yes, I don't believe that Adam had genetic diversity built into him because I don't believe Adam existed. So, yeah, no, it's... Technically, this is like the thing where he said that we all came from two people. Like, technically, in the loosest of senses, yes, this is a correct statement. However, in the way it's intended, it's absolutely fucking wrong. Last paragraph for my reading, and then we get to Nathaniel's reading. As we will see, the amount of genetic diversity within people alive today, coupled with the distribution of alleles among world populations, is strong testimony to an original Adam. No, the fuck it isn't! No, it isn't! Add this to the genetic effects of the biblical flood. What? Flood! With its severe but short population bottleneck. Wait a minute. Wait, you said the magic word, buddy. Bottleneck. That's the problem, not the... Oh, God, the problem applies to them, and they met... Fuck it, I guess I have to drink again. Okay. Anyway. Continuing on. And the Tower of Babel, with its subsequent partitioning of the genes... Wait a minute! The Tower of Babel did not partition genes. That's not it partitioned language.
Didn't you know that language is in our genes, Cirrus?
Nathaniel,
didn't you know that?
Nathaniel, I have a bag of Twizzlers here. I will tie them together and use them for a rope to strangle you. It will be the tastiest of all murders.
Wait, I'll be like that. I'll be like that guy the other day that put the python around his neck. I'll have more fun.
You'll have a lot more fun because you'll have the opportunity to eat your way out.
Eat my way out. This is great.
Okay. And we can go a long way to explain human genetic history from a biblical perspective while using the genetic data available to date. No, you can't.
Yeah.
Don't lie. Don't lie. That's bad. That's not even a this can apply to you, so I have to take a drink, so I hate myself. It's a just don't lie, and that's a lie. And yes, I know the difference between a lie and a falsehood. A lie requires intent. I believe this was very fucking intentional.
Oh, it is. It's well. It also speaks to the idea of blood and the Tower of Babel as if they are accepted historical events, which is not the case.
They are not. We do not accept that we tried to build a giant tower and then suddenly I was speaking English up at somebody who was speaking Chinese. That is not a thing that happened. I'm sorry.
That the real reason that all the languages happened around Babylon at that point, around Nebuchadnezzar, is because the god Enki thought it'd be funny. We accepted account.
So we do have the next paragraph here, which is your turn to read. Enjoy.
Just wanted some more Twizzlers with that. I figured you would do the Twizzlers thing again, and they just.
Oh, I mean, we've got the Twizzlers right here. Does that count? Hershey's? Can I get like advertising dollars for this?
Are they strawberry or are they like the regular ones?
Oh no, these are filled Twizzlers.
Oh,
two different ones. There is a citrus punch filled Twizzler, and there's also a cherry kick filled Twizzler, and they are Twizzlers, but they have a filling inside them that is this gooey filling that is the same flavor as the Twizzler itself, but much more concentrated and a bit sour. They are quite delicious and very stretchy, so I might not have to use so many of them when you inevitably commit not alive.
Oh, well, that means you'll have more to eat after the fact. I also like to say that. I would like to say that I Twizzlers because I had no idea there was anything other than like the regular and the strawberry ones that are like bigger and you can like blow through them like and you can drink your Mountain Dew through them.
Oh no, there's like chocolate flavored Twizzlers. It's whatchamacallit. There's chocolate Twizzlers. I mean, it's from the Hershey's company, so of course there's chocolate ones. But there's chocolate Twizzlers. There's multicolored ones that are like different flavors of fruit. There's nibs, which are Twizzlers, but like the tiny ones that you can have. There's a bunch of different flavors for Twizzler. I would highly recommend like heading to Walmart and just grabbing all the different packages and just having a day where you're like, I'm gonna try Twizzlers today.
On your way home, Susan. Let's see. Let's see. The analysis of data at hand. I like how he gets into allele frequencies and stuff like that because I would love to have a conversation with him about allele frequencies over the course of the past, 6,000 years. And I think that he and I would have a fun conversation. Although he is a PhD geneticist and I am not a geneticist, I'd have a fun conversation with him.
I mean, Georgia exists, and she's the best argument against a degree being actual merit.
It is true, but you can also tell when she almost loses the facade every once in a while, to where she has this moment where you can tell that she's just fucking around, and I can see it in those videos, and I'm like, Georgia, I can tell that you're just getting paid to do this, because I can see where she doesn't believe some of the bullshit she's saying.
It's like you're a paid actor. Stop.
Yeah, if you're gonna get paid for it, again, if this were not causing harm to children, I would have no problem with this because you're taking advantage of capitalism. Good for you. Just stop taking advantage of tax dollars. Kentucky, you suck. What does this guy say? It all have made a get ready to drink a grievous mistake, and that the data actually stands in contradiction to their claims.
Okay, yep, that's a drink that applies directly to them. That is projection.
I knew that like before I even got halfway through the fucking sentence.
What sucks is that this is very mildly sweet tea, and now that I've decided to eat one of these Twizzlers, I can't taste any of the sugar in the tea, so this tastes absolutely bitter now.
Oh wow, I bet.
I'm swallowing a bitter pill every time.
He only goes into using the HapMap data instead of the Human Genome Project, which is unfortunate because of Colin's Collins's leadership with the human genome, but whatever. This particular data set includes over 1,300 people from 11 world populations. HapMap sequenced over 1 million individual DNA letters. I like how he puts, why don't you say nucleotides, dude? Scattered through the genome of each person in the study with an average distance of 2,800 nucleotides between the sequenced letters. They covered a huge proportion of human genetic diversity, and one can use the data to address many questions about human history. In fact, I have this data on hand, and I spent a considerable amount of time analyzing it as I attempt to build a creationist model of human history. He says, I'm not working on this alone. That's good. Scientists don't work alone.
I thought that the Bible already had a creationist model of human histories. It was that entire section that was nothing but begot, 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 begot.
Didn't Usher finish this with Newton, like, hundreds of years ago? Million common variants in human genome. Depends on how you use the word variants, because we have about 60 novel mutations per human, like the human zygote, if you will. We have about 60 novel mutations. And variance is, it depends on, I don't know what he means exactly by that, are quite common and can be found in any of almost world dominations. Chose to focus on a selection of these. So he's talking about HapMap and stuff like that. So I'd have to know what he's talking. I have no idea when he gets into this talking about the 10 million. But I was at first struck by several things that appeared to support the evolutionary model.
You know, when I first looked at history, because I was taught as a creationist, I was struck by several things that appeared to support the biblical model. So I guess I'll just take a drink of this bitter tea.
Yeah, it's I went.
Okay.
Let me see, because it gets kind of, for anybody that's not involved in science, I'm reading through like the lettering and stuff like that within like transversions and centromeres and whatnot, and it does get kind of boring. Let me, I'm reading ahead a little bit. Where I plot the allele frequencies, AG variants on a human chromosome 22. He gets into a lot of. I would have to go and actually read this, because it seems scientific, what the HapMap actually says about it before I start banging my head against the wall on it. Because I scroll down through like some of the figures and stuff, and I can see where there's like allele frequency changes, and allele clusters. And I also would have to put this inside of the price equation to see if his mathematics actually bears out properly.
So I think I think we figured out, we might be able to go back to the video itself, because I think we have figured out why they did not reference, like why they did not use the article in their video. And that's the audience that they're talking to doesn't understand any of this, and neither do the people speaking in the creation video.
Oh yeah, he said. I scrolled down a little bit. Yeah, you're right. And like I said, I would have to put his figures into the price equation to see if they actually map out properly. That starts with the founder Adam and assigns him 1,000 heterozygous alleles. He assumes that Eve is a clone. Makes sense. And give her the same set of variations. As they started having children, the children will be assigned a spouse after the reaching defined age of maturation, which we don't know what that was 70,000 years ago.
So, looking at the conclusion of this, their conclusion is, it is disingenuous for BioLogos to claim that no evidence for Adam and Eve, there's no evidence of Adam and Eve for several reasons. First, their conclusions are based on evolutionary assumptions. Okay.
Drink.
That's a drink. That's a drink. But So this word, evolutionary assumption. The model of evolution does not have assumptions. It has predictions. If these predictions comport with reality, then we know that the model is functioning as expected. If the predictions do not comport with reality, then we know that the model must be tossed out and therefore cannot be called a theory, because we can't have something be a theory unless the model works. So, this term, evolutionary assumption, only creationists use that, as far as I'm aware. One cannot legitimately claim something to be proven. Again, we have another problem. You do not prove things in science. That's, again, not a scientific term. So, maybe not use that without testing the assumptions behind that claim. Well, yes. But given that the claim that Adam and Eve are there there's falsifiability to the claim, but there's no falsifiability to God, which is the predicator for that claim. We still have a problem. To do otherwise amounts in circular reasoning. God fucking damn
it. While you're doing that, somebody asked what an allele is. An allele is, to make it very easy, it's the variations that we receive from both of our parents. Because we're diploid, allele from each of our with one of each we receive one inherited allele from each of our parents, and the genotypes and phenotypes. But to make it again easier, basically what happens is we get one dominant and it can actually change something inside of our genetic structure. So that could be something along the lines of having a person having multicolored eyes, if you will, which is completely benign mutation, but it's something that happens. And so if a person has a dominant variation of, the XX side of a allele, then you could have something more from a male parent diploid. There are other ones too, but whatever, that we would get from our parents. So did I explain that horribly? I'm sometimes very bad at that. Science is not easy to...
Yeah, science is very dense, but it didn't sound... to me, it didn't sound terribly off the mark. Also, we have Epichrist in the chat. Normally I ignore them, but it said that falsify is not needed in science. First of all, grammar is not needed in Epichrist. There are some things that we cannot falsify in science, such as the Carpenium principle. Well, I've Googled Carpenium principle, and I see literally nothing. So, whatever you're talking about, Carpenium principle, we assume that the natural law applies to the whole universe. That's not an assumption. That's actually just part of the methodology. It's called methodological naturalism. And it's not assumed thing. It's a model that is utilized in order to make things function, because there has not been a single supernatural claim that has been able to pan out in any model. So, yeah. Anyway, continuing with their conclusion. To do otherwise amounts to circular reasoning and question begging, and a rejection of any alternative theory. Following from this is thus reduced to nothing more than a straw man argument. Wait, what? Where is a straw man in there? You've said circular reasoning, question begging, and straw man in the same sentence, but you've used a demonstration of none of these things. Second, the majority of data fits nicely into the straightforward biblical model. No, the fuck it doesn't. Including a single starting couple a mere 6,000 years ago. That is a lie. While there are several unresolved issues with the biblical model...
Sir? Yes.
Oh,
Chris, what the hell happened?
I muted myself. I did an oopsie.
I was sitting here typing like I don't know if I was talking back to somebody and I was like talking about this is the reason I didn't get into like genotypes and phenotypes and stuff, and then it went thump and I was like,
Okay, so what I left off on was while there are several unresolved issues with the biblical model, and then I said all of them, as it relates to the data at hand, the same can be said about every evolutionary model. There are evolutionary models that have problems. Yes, this is why we reject Lamarck.
Also, I mean, well, we reject a lot of. I mean, get into Pasteur. We reject spontaneous generation.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what we do with science, Dick. What he did, though, and again, I need to look into it, and I know that we're not going to get all the way through that that video. I am excited. I by the way, if you would like to actually have a video where we go over it, I would like the whole thing. I'd love to, but I've never read this article before. I hesitate to call it an article, but whatever, blog post. Data into equations where they would work instead of assigning it little things that he likes to assign it. And there's no scientific table for the way he assigned these. And so the DNA change rate, which is odd for him to do that. I would need to do that, but see how the video kind of cut, or if they talk about it at all, because this is so does. So, and also to say the conclusion that people that follow evolutionary theory have too many holes and therefore you should listen to me, that's not something that we should do either.
There's a thing they do in here.
No.
That bothers me. Okay, so they say that one cannot conclude that the Bible has been invalidated by the available evidence. Well, yes, they can, actually. Albert Einstein is rumored to have opined. So I love these quotes, but this one is actually used correctly, but for a really stupid purpose. Albert Einstein is rumored to have opined, 1,000 experiments cannot prove me right. A single experiment can prove me wrong. Yes, this is the reason why we don't use the term proved in science. We don't prove evolution true. We simply observe a fact and say, well, the data comports with the facts. So, 1,000 experiments cannot prove me right. A single experiment can prove me wrong. This is sound logic. Francis Collin and BioLogos would do well to heed his advice. I guess I would also do well to take another fucking drink. Because that is exactly the issue that we have from their side as well. One experiment can prove the biblical model for the genome wrong. Well, one, there is no biblical model for the genome. The closest thing we have is the frickin' begots section in the Bible. Secondly, even if we took that, that's for that being a thing that traces back to the earliest human being, it does not work. That has been very, very soundly thrown away.
Look at just based on a goddamn pick a fucking chromosome. God, hold on. No. I'd be wrong about the chromosome, but do this. We can actually see mitochondrial breakdown in our older DNA as we look back through our genetic sequence, as we map everything. We can actually see the breakdown. This does not go back either years to two people or 250,000 years to two people. What we do, it does not go to two single people or happen to be fully formed, if you will, like actual Homo sapiens. By the way, methodology is not spelled with an A. Please stop it. Not you, sir. It's just in the chat. I just keep on seeing it over and over again. And there is no part of this that goes back to any kind of biblical model. No part of genetics does. No part of evolutionary theory even gets close to a biblical model. It certainly doesn't go back to an Adam and an Eve. Yes, we have a mitochondrial Eve, and I love that they mentioned mitochondrial Eve in the video, but they didn't mention her in the way that science does. And we're talking about Lupa again at this point, right? The last universal primate ancestor. But that actually goes back even further. You're talking 66, 68 million years ago. You can't see genetics at this point. We can actually look at our last universal primate ancestor. We are with this. There's no part of evolution. There's no part of science or anything like that. And says Adam and Eve, period. And so what he's trying to propose is not even science. It's annoying is what it is. I still want to create the model and put his numbers into it though, and put just like one figure different, just so it completely skews the answer and says, see, told you were wrong. That way you can show that what he's doing is like, you can put any number you want into it and say this is 6,000 years ago. Yeah. All you have to do is figure out what the change sequence you need is and say, see, told you it would. What you have to do is figure a different change sequence. And then I can guarantee you I can make it look like some crazy fucking number. Difficult to do that, especially when the change sequence over time doesn't actually bear out what we see genetically. He also doesn't consider parts of our genes and parts of our DNA that are chromosomes that are turned off. Have part of our eyesight that's turned off. In certain color variants and stuff like that. It's you can turn it back on, but it was turned off. When did it get turned off in the past 6,000 years? If anyone wants to phrase, if anyone wants to know what that means, we can get to it later. But no part of this ever, he doesn't put any of that. You're talking about genetic degradation. You're talking about genetic lines that shifted based on population drift. The Australian plate moved away from India. Population drift there. There's a genetic drift. And we can tell there is. You can tell the genetic drift between those that interbred with Homo neanderthalensis. And we can see that in a certain part of the population's DNA. That this person said, and again, I actually am going to go in and look at the paper, and I am going to put in the stuff and look at what his science actually does. And I'm going to put it into the price equation and see how it bears out. But nothing that he said gets back to the Bible regardless. I ranted. Sorry, man.
Oh, no, it's perfectly fine. Especially because we're going to get to the next point they make in the video, and then I'm going to have to go ahead and probably close this out there because we have been going for a little over 2 hours.
My bad.
More than that. That's not your fault. Part of it's mine, too. I got wrapped up in the conversations just as much. But we're going to play this next part and see what the next dumb thing they say is, so probably the next sentence. And we'll see what happens.
That's right. And since God's word, properly interpreted, will be supported by current and future scientific discoveries, since it records how everything came into existence, but that's not even the point.
So I want to do this thing where I want to agree with him, but in a way that does not support what he's saying. The Bible's not a book about science. So, given that it's not a book about science, then yes, science will support the Bible, because the Bible's not a book about science. The Bible, properly interpreted, says jack shit about science. So science, moving forward on its own, will not say anything to undermine the Bible, because the Bible's not trying to say anything about science. Now, when you try to say that it does, which these people are, then science literally rips the entire thing to shreds.
current and future scientific discoveries.
Which is kind of funny. When you
oh, go on.
No, you're right. When you start with the model they're starting with, you're almost there. Like you're actually like halfway into science, and it's like you have this again with the Georgia Purdom, where the facade kind of falls off, right back up.
Like
it's like,
and it's really awkward because it would be so easy for this whole fight between creationism and science to not exist by just going, our book's not a book about science. It's just a book about mythology that happens to have a mythos that we ascribe to as metaphorically important enough, and we think that the savior mechanic in it is important to our lives, and that's it. You know what? At that point, nobody would give a shit anymore. But they can't do that.
Yeah, they would lose this. You're talking how much money they make, and how much of how much pull they currently have. There are people who follow them and are getting into places of governmental power, which that's fucking scary. And like I said, the mayor of a town in Georgia, who is also a biology teacher, has signed the Descent from Darwin, and that's a person who not only teaches biology at a college, mayor of a town. They can't admit that what they know is bullshit. They'll lose all of that. They'll lose all the money, and it is all about money and things like that too.
Well, you take Kent Hovind and Ken Ham just as prime examples. What happens when they admit that their entire thing is bullshit? Like if they did that,
yeah,
they would lose everything.
Oh, what do you think would happen? And this here, but what do you think would happen if Ken Ham came out and was like, "Oh yeah, all this shit is nonsense," to the millions and millions of dollars that he got in taxpayer money?
Well, I can tell you one thing. He'd be kicked out of town.
Yeah, I don't think he'd have to give it back, though.
Well, probably not, no.
Well, I guess there is something built into that to where they have to give a certain amount, like per ticket or something like that in tax revenue. But can you but that's the thing. Yeah, he would have to, yes, discount Hovind. Have to. He's like the president right now. He's too built into his own lies to try and say the truth because it will affect him so negatively. So Donald Trump does not tell the truth, but still, that's a different side of things. So,
with that said, though, that is as far as we're able to get into here. It is one telling of two things, though we can only get 5 minutes into the video. It is telling of one, my proclivity for jumping into tangents and not leaving them. I apologize for that, only slightly. Two, it is incredibly telling of how much stupid there is to parse through.
Yeah, there's a lot. If you can I do a
Yes.
shameless plug?
Go ahead and do a shameless plug, and then I'll close this out.
If you like hearing about, so we don't talk about creationism on our show, believe it or not. There's no science necessarily on our show. We talk about, Susan and I have a show, and it's called Divine Disbelief, and it's on every Wednesday and Sunday night at 7:30 Central. So do your own shift. We don't care about your time zone. And we talk about secular news. And yeah, news and shit is the thing. We talk about secular news, how things that are going on really affect us around the world. So we're not just American exceptionalism centric. And then we also, every single Sunday night, we also showcase a YouTube channel or somebody that's like up and coming, if you will. We had, as we mentioned last night, Neil the 604 Atheist was on with us. Also looking for somebody to come on this Sunday. So, Cyrus, if you have any ideas, feel free to send them to me or to Susan, whichever. But we have a lot of fun with it. We go over the news and stuff. then resurrection is not a myth; it's historical. I'll debate you. I'll debate you on that. I've actually done that once.
If you want to actually, you know what? I would like to see that a live conversation between you and Epichrist. Do it. I would be there.
You can. I think you could host it, right?
I mean, if you guys want to do that, I will host that debate.
And
why not?
And well, Cyrus, you actually just got an invitation as well from Susan. You should come on the show one Sunday night.
Sure.
So I will contact James.
Oh, James from Modern Day Debate.
Oh no, I don't care about Modern Day Debate.
Like if
I don't want to go on.
Like if you want to go, if Epichrist wants to go on there, I'm saying that Nathaniel's already on my platform right now. You're obviously communicating on my platform. I am perfectly fine hosting you guys and hosting that debate on my platform. Like
I don't. By the way, Modern Day Debate. Just saying, I don't hate you guys. I'm just, Cyrus is my friend.
He's saying that if he had a choice between me and James, he would rather take me. It's not anything against James. I personally like James.
Yeah, I have no reason not to. He and I don't think have ever actually spoken. I think that I've just retweeted some of the stuff they've had.
With that said, though,
yeah, I'll debate you, Epichrist, about the resurrection for show.
All right, I will get on getting that organized here in the next bit, and we'll figure out a date that works for both of you if that is a thing that you guys want to do. That said, I have enjoyed this, even if we've only gotten through 5 minutes of the video. Half of the reason that I'm closing this out now is because I desperately need to use the restroom, totally not having anything to do with the drinking game that I subjected myself to. Has nothing to do with that, probably a lot to do with that. But I do thank everybody who sent in super chats. It was really enjoyable. I think I'm going to continue doing the voice thing. I'll have to start working on some of my other voices to make sure they're polished up for when you guys send in super chats. So definitely thank you guys for sending those in. Thank you guys for tuning in. We hit a milestone today, 160 concurrent viewers. We were at like 167 at one point. That was an amazing amount. I have never been quite that high in numbers. But that all said, hold on. Epichrist is saying, "Oh no, not Nathaniel."
Oh, you don't want to debate me?
Like that guy that special pleads? What?
I'm
so confused.
I don't think I've ever done special. I mean, Cyrus, you and I have been on. So, it's Atheist Hunter.
I'm so confused. That's
I'll still do it, Cyrus. If Epic, can I do a Back to the Future reference?
Sure.
Epicurus, I get, or Epicurus. That makes more sense. If you want to be yellow, that's fine. I'm okay with you being yellow.
Oh boy.
Here. I'm always here. Ready to take. Hopefully, you won't have any kind of like issues with your microphone when you finally decide that you have the chops to and meet me, in a safe space like this, because I'm here for you.
Well, if that was definitely a call out. That
I don't usually do that.
that was definitely a call out. So that is a welcome to the arena for Epichrist if you two want to have your debate on the resurrection. That all said, I am going to go ahead and close this out. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you, Nathaniel, for being part of this. And I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you in tomorrow's video.